All right, here we are. Hello. Hello, my friends. Well, my one friend that is here. Well, it says we have three watching, so I don't know who the third person is.
One of them is definitely me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, come on, I gotta pause. I did this the last time. It starts playing it to me, so all of a sudden my voice starts coming through here, and I was like, "Oh, what the fuck?" Okay.
Yeah. If you're watching your own channel, you have to mute it.
Weird. Okay, so today, what was planned was a commander. What was planned is supposed to have a discussion with Manic Idiot about UFOs and aliens. I have messaged him the link into the Hangouts, and we're just waiting on him. I haven't heard that he wasn't going to be doing it, so I'm just assuming he's just running late. So we're gonna, just fly by the seat of our pants for a little while until hopefully he shows up. But luckily, on my third stream, I've got a producer already. Yeah, that's fucking right. I got a fucking producer. Welcome back to the channel, HuFlungPoo. He was nice enough or gracious enough to say that he would be willing to actually pay attention to the chat for me, because we all know I suck at that. So welcome to HuFlungPoo for coming on to produce and take care of the chat. Well, I discussed it and not worry about it.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, she says producer, but really glorified chat reader.
Well, you said producer, and then I was like, well, what I really need.
Yeah. Well, but when I was asking you about that, like I was basically saying, hey, if you'd like, I can run the technical end of it, like that last stream we were on together.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the regard, and and I could still at some point, if you want, do that for you. So provided I'm not very busy that day, and
Yeah.
talk about how we could do that. But that's if you decide you want to go that way. But anyway, hello everyone.
So let's see. So how's everybody doing? I mean, shit. I've been talking to Crags all day, so I know how he's doing. But Commander, how are you? Is this the first of my streams that you've come to watch? And why shit? I actually looked at the chat since there's only 3 chats. I have to pay attention at the moment in time.
Well, if I may ask,
Mhm.
yeah, for Kraggles and Commander, if you guys wouldn't mind, at the very least, hitting the thumbs on the video there, maybe sharing the feed.
See, I
Maybe
don't even. You're awesome because I don't even think about that stuff. I mean, I did think, I should keep an eye on the like thing to see when, the person who always dislikes my videos comes in.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out for that.
Because this person's only missed maybe 1 or 2 of my videos in the past few months. So, but usually, it's within the first few minutes that it's up. They're just like, boink, nope. So, and I
Are you
find I
sure it's
find
the
it
same
fascinating.
person?
I think it is. I mean, it may not be, but looking at it and seeing how quickly and how, it seems deliberate. It doesn't seem just like just somebody just didn't fucking like it, which fine. You don't like it, you don't like it. I don't care. But it just seems methodical. So I could very well be wrong, but there's a part of me that says, this is just this one person that's just trying to fuck with me or just doesn't like me. And I find it fascinating. They're actually going to probably, if it continues, and this isn't to encourage this behavior in any way, shape, and form, but if it continues, I'm probably going to create some kind of folklore around it and have it be some kind of special little, like, yes, and give them a special name. I don't know what, but give them some sort of special name.
Yeah,
A
something
fancy,
along the lines of detractor.
yeah. Because one thing I prepared myself for when I started the channel, because my husband's like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Telling me all the cons of it, of course. I prepared myself for the fact that, yeah, people are going to say shitty things. People are not going to like you. And I was just like, okay. I'm fine with that. And it took a while before, I actually started to get some negative feedback. But when it happened, I knew. I was like, okay, finally, I've made it. I've gotten some negative feedback. I'm like every other YouTuber now.
That's what's really important.
Yeah, yeah. What am I talking about, Commander? Not much at the moment in time. I'm
Well,
still.
what do you have planned to talk about today?
Well, it's supposed to be about aliens and UFOs. Something that Manic and I had discussed months ago, like in December, actually. So technically last year, when I first started thinking about streaming, we had set up, not a day and a time, but that we were going to have that discussion. And now that I've started streaming, I said, hey, you still want to talk about aliens? Because I was like, man, I want to do another stream. And he said, yeah. And he set up this time with me, 4 o'clock, and today. And
Did you clarify Eastern? Like, did
mm-hmm,
you? Okay, so you did clarify time zone. All right,
I did. I said EST.
EST.
And he said EST back to me. But, life happens. So maybe something just fucking came up
Yeah,
for him. I don't know.
or he thought estimated is what EST or established.
Like I'll just mosey in there at some time around 4 in the 4 o'clock hour. It could be. It's Twitter. People, communication gets a little lost on Twitter at times.
Yeah, it does.
But
Uh,
luckily, we you came along, so worst case scenario, I can still just we can shoot the shit.
right. Which is quite apropos for me,
Yes, it is. That's what you like to fling all the time.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I ever discussed this, but my username is not really about whether or not I fling the shit, but who else is flinging the shit.
Ah.
Yeah, so that's why I have a question mark behind my channel name.
Okay, that makes more sense. I always wondered about why is it a question mark? And it would always throw me when I'd try to find your channel
Hmm.
before I subscribed.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I type it in. I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I find his channel?
Well, the thing is if you do a search on my username at the very least, make sure like every syllable is together.
Mm,
Um, Mine actually does pop up. At least it does now, and it had so long as the channel's up. I mean, but there it also links up to a couple of other things like I think there's a Captain HuFlungPoo channel that hasn't been used in decades.
damn,
So yeah, I'm exaggerating a little bit
a
because
little bit, but
as a Texan, we give way to exaggeration a lot. Um, but yeah, I mean, and there's a couple of teen girls, I guess, that are doing some
yeah, I
kind of
saw some shit that I was like, that has nothing to do with it.
yeah. So anyway, there you have it. But until Manic gets here, hopefully he does. I don't without knowing specifically what you two are going to talk about. I mean, like I said, I've when I was well, actually, I didn't tell you this part, but when I was much younger, um, I'd read a couple of uh child grade level books about UFOs, and when I was a kid, I firmly, well, not firmly, maybe firmly is a little strong, but I did have a belief that UFOs were a thing, and but that's kind of tempered since I've gotten older.
Well, what I mean, other than I understand believing in fairies and stuff like that. Yes, definitely. As you get older, that it's fairy tales. You realize that. But what exactly would take you away from the belief in aliens when it has nothing to do with the fanciful fantasy world or paranormal?
Um, Lack of evidence, really. Okay, so which is funny coming from somebody who is a bit of a Christian. At least I have a Christian faith anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And and I understand completely that there's really not enough physical or scientific evidence to support the Christian faith or the existence of God, but
Mm-hmm.
again, that's kind of what makes it faith.
Yeah.
So to that end, as far as alien life, or UFOs visiting this planet. Uh, same thing, just like there isn't scientific evidence to support God. I just have not come across enough scientific evidence to support that there is a alien life, is or intelligent alien life. Let me be a little bit more specific. Nor that we have been visited by alien life.
See, it's I find it interesting that you brought up, the fact that it is a bit odd that you could have the that belief in a deity. We'll just
Mhm.
say we'll keep it simple there. Um, when in the same realm, you don't believe in the aliens, even though in your brain there's no scientific proof for either.
Right. And I guess that maybe comes down to what I have been, or what anybody's been exposed to. I think it may be obvious, maybe not, that I was raised to have faith in the Christian deity, as it were,
Mm-hmm.
and not so much with space aliens. If my
True,
if my
true.
parents if my parents had, like, okay, well, actually, okay, sorry, now that I'm remembering who my parents are. My mother was definitely all about having us in church on Sundays, even though there were times where she kind of, hey, Craggles, where she would backslide, so to speak, on getting us to church.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Whereas my dad was a little bit more of a paranormal believer.
Mm-hmm.
But my parents unfortunately split when I was still young. But my dad actually took me to a film that was supposed to be done in a documentary style, but it's not a documentary per
Mm-hmm.
se. But he took me to a movie on Sasquatch, and that movie scared the shit out of me. I was,
Oh,
after seeing, well, because he took me when I was about 4, and I'm like, what the,
yeah,
looking back, I'm like, why the hell would you take your 4-year-old to a damn movie about some animal that
monster.
belongs in cryptozoology? So
Yeah, that's a bit much for a 4-year-old.
yeah, so, and up until, as far as I know, up until his death, my dad believed in the existence of Bigfoot or the Yeti, or even us being visited by aliens.
Mm.
And and if I had seen scientific evidence to support it, I could believe that there's alien life out there, intelligent alien life. I'm sorry, I have to reiterate that, because NASA, I believe it was, came out, well, rovers on Mars, but they said, they came out however long ago it was, saying that their soil samples had revealed that there was if living bacteria on Mars,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
fine. I could absolutely believe that there is some form of life on planets outside, either within, but the intelligent life end of it, however, maybe not so much. So anyway, just not enough scientific evidence. And again, if I had been raised to believe that there were aliens living intelligent life in our solar system, I could probably easily believe that, yes, there is intelligent life out there.
See, I find it interesting how a lot of people, their upbringing impacts the rest of their life. Believe
Hmm.
in how some of us that doesn't impact our lives at all. I mean, there's still going to be shit that impacts your life. Your parents and your childhood does definitely inform um, how you live and the way your brain thinks. But
Hmm.
like my parents, nobody believed in supernatural stuff. My mom would be considered Christian, and for a period of time, did take me to well, take the family except for my dad. My dad would not go. He's always been an atheist. He'll always be an atheist. Um, or he's not really an atheist. He's more a universal consciousness sort of fellow. where
Right.
you just go back into the fold rather than having a heaven and such like that, and there being a deity. But my mom, she still had the belief, in God, and took us to Presbyterian church for a while. But I've never, regardless of what my parents tried to teach or install in me, I, I I always had my own opinion that I came to on my own, or not only on my own, but like taking the information that was given to me and making my own decision about it.
Right.
So I find it interesting. I don't think one's better or worse than the other, but I find it interesting you know, what's the deciding factor
Hey,
that makes that
so
difference?
so sorry. I'm sorry to
Mhm.
interrupt you. Would you repeat that last thought that you had because
Yeah, you're roboting as
completely cut out?
well. You
Okay.
you've been cutting out for me as well. Chat, tell us. Do any of you or hear either of us going in and out? Because be interesting to see if it's something about our networks that don't work well. If there's something.
Real quick, let me look at the live chat. Craggle says, I think the likelihood of aliens existing is quite high. We, with two E's, I'm sorry, Craggles, we as humans are proof of life in the universe. Um, yes, I can absolutely agree that we are. So you were fine, but poo cut out a couple of times. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so it could be something with me. I still think Discord's the better way to go, but anyway.
I
Um,
got I gotta learn that shit. Give me one thing at a time. I gotta learn here. Let me get comfortable with one before I start learning something new.
no, that's fine. And the thing of it is that it wouldn't surprise me if it's me on through my network that's cutting out on you since you're hosting the hangout.
Ah,
So that's probably why you're fine to them.
yay!
Whereas if I were hosting it, it might be a little bit different. But anyway, so yeah, to that end, yeah, absolutely agree that there is proof of life and that we are proof of life in the universe. But I don't think that we alone are proof of there being other life in the universe, which Commander does. Commander A and B comes through and says, proof of life in universe, yes, intelligent, less likely. So, what are your thoughts on either one of those?
Well, definitely, there is life in the universe. I mean, the just astronomical size of the universe alone, and how many planets and how many suns are out there. There has to be life. I mean, we know just from our existence, from how the our own planet has, um, created life, ended life, reestablished life. That life persists. Period. It's not always the same life. It's different things. Different things come up, but life always does find a way to exist. We know that on our own planet, in the most insufferable places, sulfuric acid type existence areas, there are actual microbes and life in that on our own planet. So it's obvious to me, at least, that if that happens on our own planet, other planets that have completely different, setups, let's just say, yeah, life would have to be able to find a way on that as well. Intelligent life, yes, that's the conundrum here, really. That's why, belief in UFOs is a little separate than just belief in life on other planets. Intelligent life, I'll get to my beliefs on intelligent life in a little bit, but I saw a video the other week. I mean, most of the time, people who I've discussed aliens with and had the idea or the thought process that no, there's definitely not. They never had any actually good arguments for why. They really didn't. So it's like, just no. It's like they were stuck in that mindset that, we're special, which I suppose, we're not even going to say that. That's rude. Um, so they never had any good arguments for why. But I saw a video the other day and I wish I could remember who it was done and the name of the video. Maybe I'll find it in my history and post it on Twitter for everybody. But it actually had very good arguments for why not. Or not really why not, but why either it could not get that far or it got that far, but it's gone now. So the possibility that, yeah, those, civilizations could have existed, but by now could very well be gone. Or even just the simple fact that maybe we are the first. Which I kind of find unlikely just because of the length of time that the universe has been around. But, and we're not, we're not the oldest area of the universe. There's much, much older parts of the universe than we. So there's a good possibility, but there is a possibility that, in likelihood, that they could have died out by now. But when it comes to the UFOs, and I have to go with what I've experienced in my lifetime, and I have seen a UFO. So I have to lean on the side of that just because of my own experience. I'm not going to say I was abducted, but I did lose time. So it's like, even though I think most of the people who, talk about how their abductions and shit, they're full of shit. Most of them are fucking full of shit, if not all of them. Why would an alien stick something up your ass? I don't get it. If they're so advanced, be able to come to our fucking world, go, surpass light years and shit, they must have the technology to do tests on you without having to invade your asshole. I mean, come on.
Unless they are not a benevolent species, a little bit more
Sure.
on the malevolent side, and just want to see how people react to those kind of stimuli.
Maybe they're sex freaks.
That's a possibility. They could.
Maybe these UFOs are coming here for weird sexual escapades. We are their fetish. It's a possibility. You never know. We're sexual beings. They could be very sexual beings as well.
Yep. They absolutely could. So I mean, that's just strictly, I guess, on my part, But if I may, just add on, and I know this is definitely gonna sound like a easy answer for Christians and how they can reconcile science with faith, which I absolutely do believe can happen. I absolutely believe that you can accept science and also be of faith. I mean, we have enough evidence of scientists being men of faith. I believe Sir Isaac Newton was definitely
yeah. I never understood the conflict.
Yeah.
At all. I mean, I'm an atheist, I suppose would be what you would call me. I don't believe in a deity. But I would think if I were the type of person who believed in a deity, I would think that all of science, maybe it doesn't, help your scripture. Maybe it doesn't fit with your scripture, but I would think it would prove to you the just magnificence of science, the beauty of creation. I would think that would be something that could help instill your faith more rather than being opposed to it.
Right. And and here's but here's what I was going to say. It's as crazy it might sound to maybe an atheist or anti-theist even, is that it's okay for there to be a reconciliation that if alien life in fact does exist, that any other Christian that I've heard talk about these two subjects, it's like, well, if there is alien life out there, I still believe that God is the creator of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why not? Why wouldn't, I mean, if he's the creator, if you believe that there's a God and he created us, and he created the universe, why wouldn't he have had fun with other places?
Right. No, absolutely. And, and that's, now, not that it's a belief of my own, but,
Mhm.
it is not outside the realm of possibility that, if you're a Christian, yeah, you can absolutely believe that, God may have created life in other uh, galaxies or universes, and just kind of, establish, it's possible that even Jesus Christ had some kind of, mission on those other places.
Yeah,
But,
you never
it's
know.
just, but so far, if we want to go based using science, we just have not uh, had enough scientific evidence to prove that there's intelligent life off world. And
Not yet. I think it's a possibility. I think the sad part is that it probably won't happen in my lifetime. And I find that a bit sad. Like I saw the other day that I'm not going to get this completely correct because my shitty memory. Um, but they've created and they're getting ready to launch, or they've launched a test thing, and they're seeing how that works, and then they're going to be a big launch in like 15 to 30 years. I forget how long exactly it's going to be, but when they actually launch it, but they've got these microchip size, this teeny tiny little things. They're going to like, did you see Twister?
the movie Twister,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know that little contraption that they put out to test, to put little particles into the tornado to, read all the stuff.
yeah, that's some kind of
Yeah.
measurement devices. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
kind of like that, but they're like teeny tiny, like SD cards,
Hmm.
teeny tiny, that they are going to be putting out into space and then bursting out to make them go towards Alpha Centauri, I believe it is, where they, can then, and then it's going to like take 15 years for those things to send back the information they gather.
Right.
I mean, that's going to be fascinating as hell, but there's a damn good chance I'm not going to be alive when that happens. And to me, that's excessively sad. But,
Well,
really, I'm going to be dead.
for whatever reason, the sci-fi show Firefly just
Mhm.
came to mind. And one of the things I loved a lot about that particular sci-fi show was lack of the lack of discovery of alien life. Like there was like all the planets that they colonized
Mhm.
throughout that particular galaxy that they're in. Not one sign of alien life is ever mentioned. The best you get was that they were on some other planet, and somebody had in this large glass container filled with either water or formaldehyde what they were trying to sell to, like, as if you were at a freak show at some carnival.
Yeah.
They tried to say it was alien life, and it was a some kind of aborted cow or something like that. I don't
Yeah. If you take, the belief in UFOs coming to Earth out of the equation,
know.
um, yeah, the likelihood once we actually get to go out and travel in space, the likelihood of us coming across another, intelligent life form would be very few and far between, if at all.
Right.
So that is a good point. But yeah, I still gotta go with my own life experience. But yeah,
So, if I understood you correctly, you said you have had some kind of close encounter.
yeah,
Okay.
I did see a UFO when I was a child. Land in the what was it? It was like an orange field
Uh huh.
that was on the other side of my backyard. And yeah, lost some time, and I was like, okay, because I knew I wasn't imagining it because even my dog saw it. My little terrier, little silky terrier, he saw it as well. He stopped and looked, and I looked, and I was like, oh, so yeah, but still.
So
Quite fascinating.
at that age, what made led you to believe that you actually were having some kind of close encounter?
Well, it looked like a UFO, like reports of UFOs, I should say.
Uh-huh.
I mean, a little bit different. Didn't like look exactly like that quintessential, but it was oval with the lights on the bottom, silent. I mean, there was a breeze, so there was actually a reaction in the atmosphere around, but completely silent. Um, and the fact that when I after the time after the lost time, it was gone.
Hmm.
So it's like it was there, and then like I knew I lost time only because my mom we had an outside washer and dryer, and my mom was doing laundry and she started a load, and the next thing I know after I see the UFO is she's done doing laundry. She's taking the laundry into the house.
Hmm.
So that's how I knew that happened because otherwise, and my dog was in a completely different spot. Like I was on my swing set, and my dog was like in front of me, in front of the slide, and I was on a swing. And when whatever happened afterwards, so that next thing I knew, he was actually on top of my slide, which he's a little silky terrier. He can't fucking get up there by himself. So that was another reason why I was like, yeah, some just fucking happened. But I also don't understand why people who claim that this shit happens to them. Why are they scared?
Uh, probably for probably for the same reason why I'm thinking as you're telling the story, because you know the I'm not going to try to tell you that what happened to you didn't happen,
Mm,
but at the same time, I approach every one of these stories similar to yours that I've heard, with a degree of skepticism.
oh, you should.
Yeah, so I'm like going, okay, so I'm sitting here in the back of my head going, okay, I wonder what could have happened to her at that age to cause her to think that certain things had changed. Why certain things seemed out of place. The dog moved. Your mom was done with the laundry. Just without your noticing.
Yeah.
And when there are so many things about us at that young of an age that happens to us mentally that it's not really that unusual for us to lose track of time. And there's probably a difference between a kid losing track of time and then finding them or they're like everything has moved so far with just within the brevity of half a second, or at least it feels that way to us.
Hmm.
So yeah, and I think it's just it's there's probably a high degree of of fear because of either mostly probably not so much because people will doubt them. I think it's the degree of how people will doubt them, and if it'll if they'll be, what's the word I'm looking for, well, the derisiveness of being doubted. Well, you're just crazy. You need to go get yourself mentally checked or stuff like that. So that I think that's why a lot of people who believe that they've had these experiences don't come forward with it because they've seen how other people who come forward get treated. Real quick to the live chat, Pooh, have you seen The Expanse set entirely with our own solar system so far? I do have The Expanse queued up on, I believe it's my Amazon. Yeah, I believe that's who's doing that is Amazon. So I have it set, but there's like all these other shows that I'm trying to get to. Yeah, okay. But yeah, yeah, if you'll follow me on Twitter, I'll let you know the moment I see it.
Okay. Just got a message from Manic Idiot. He's been having a problem with his network right now.
Oh,
He's been
okay.
trying to work on it for the last half hour to get it to work, so he may or may not be on.
Okay.
But we can continue with what we're talking about while we wait and see if what happens with that. Well, a couple of things. I completely agree. Anything in this realm, whether it be UFOs, aliens, supernatural shit, cryptozoology, anything that's besides normal, should always be taking, looked at through a skeptic eye. Always. I'm a huge skeptic for all of this. That's why it's it's weird for me to have the experiences that I've had in my life that are abnormal. I mean, I completely accept them, but at the same time, it's the skeptic in me is just like, but yeah, that's weird. There's got to be a reasoning. There's got to be an explanation for this stuff. So definitely, always skepticism is the first step in listening to anybody's experience with these things. But I know through my own self that yeah, oftentimes I'll listen to somebody talk about it, their experience, and shush, and oftentimes the way they talk about it, it seems easy, at least to me, to tell if they're either lying or imagined it. So, I usually I take everything with a grain of salt and a case by case basis.
Mhm.
Definitely. And I forget what the second point was. Oh, I'm not talking about the fear of, them talking about it. I'm talking about the fear that they have of the aliens. Because almost
Yeah.
all of them are just like, oh my God, oh my God. I wasn't, I was a child. I was a little kid. It did not scare me at all. I, to this day, do not have any um, apprehension about it.
Hmm.
So I don't understand why they're scared about it. I know some of them actually are just having those oh shit, night terrors is what it's called. I
Right.
forget the actual thing where they wake up and they can't move. Um, so I know a lot of these experiences are just that. So it's real to them, but it's not actually an experience. Um, and I can understand having the fear with that. But these other people, it sounds to me like they're just, going with what other people are talking about. It's like, yeah, this happened to them, so yeah, I'm just gonna go along. Like all those faked UFO sightings. My God, at least try to do better. You're gonna fake a fucking UFO sighting. Do better. Come on. I watched this shit and I'm just like, that is obviously fake. And that has nothing to do with whether, that UFO looks different than my UFO. Because, I mean, come on, we all have different cars. So, of course, there would probably be all different styles of UFOs. So, that's not it. But
Well, that just might depend on the alien empire. They may have.
yeah, it could be more. They could be right that it's, the grays and the giants and the reptiles. I think is the so
Yeah, that just it just could be that they find efficiency in just having one particular model.
yeah, I don't know, but they could do so much better.
Come
Uh,
on, you gotta have different models of spaceships for shit's sakes.
yeah, come on. But like, I have issues with like, yeah, sleep paralysis. Yes, that's what it is. That's what I'm talking about. I just glanced down and I saw it. Yay. Okay. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Hey,
Sleep
look
paralysis.
look at you keeping up with the chat now.
Not really. I just leaned forward and just saw sleep paralysis and just on my like, yes, that's it. Because yeah.
Yeah, and we got somebody new, Triax. Didn't know this
Hey,
one. Yeah,
I'm going to be having him on a stream at some point in time, and we might be talking about Bigfoot.
the big feats.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's one thing I proposed. If he doesn't want to talk about that, we can talk about something else. But that's something I
Well,
proposed.
yeah, man, that damn Bigfoot movie. My dad had me watch. I was just like, shit, dude. You know, I went back and watched it as an adult even, and I was just like, yeah, man, they didn't care to find this shit scary. You know, my dad was just a little bit on the bonkers side.
Well, I don't think it's bonkers. I know,
No. I'm not talking about him being bonkers just for
Oh, okay.
the Bigfoot thing. I'm saying, why would you have your 4-year old son? Apparently, I guess maybe he didn't
That is bonkers.
know exactly. Because let me tell you something. If you ever see this Bigfoot movie, and I'll try to find it for you, uh, man, it's the Bigfoot attack scream that happens in this movie. And this is early to mid 1970s.
Oh, geez.
And you can, even then, you know, you're just like, holy shit, of course a 4-year-old would be terrified of that.
Well, maybe he thought, well, I don't find it scary, so why should he find it scary?
Because I'm a freaking 4-year-old, you dumb motherfucker.
Some people just, can't see through other people's eyes.
Guess not. You know, and he also took me to go see that 1975 or 6 release of that remake of King Kong. Took me to see that too. And that wasn't that, and the damn it, fucking King Kong wasn't near as terrifying as the freaking Sasquatch movie.
I think the fucking natives on the island were far more scarier than King Kong himself.
Oh man. It was great. If you go back and see the original King Kong versus Godzilla, and the reason why I say the original is because they are in fact going to remake that movie.
Oh my god. That just goes back to my fucking video. This is America.
Yeah, that's one of
their fucking ideas.
Well, have you seen that King Kong or Kong Skull Island?
Oh yeah.
Well, if you go back and watch that, and then watch that Godzilla movie that came out a few years ago, it's the same company is involved in both of those movies. So they call King Kong a Motu. So yeah, they're definitely building up to that.
Well, I admittedly, okay. On one hand, I find that fucking stupid and annoying, but on the other hand, I will watch it.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it. I think they have one more. The plan is to have one more of each monster, to do one more movie of them separately before they bring them together. I think that's the plan.
It'll be, those type of movies to me, regardless of whether they suck or not, they're entertaining.
Yeah.
So I'll watch them.
This is a bit off topic, but yeah, that reimagining of the most recent reimagining of Godzilla, I really like. I mean, he's aesthetically more menacing.
Yes, his look was much better than the one before it.
Oh hell, that freaking 1997 Godzilla remake. He looked like a freaking iguana.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
I mean, I didn't think the aesthetic of him was bad, but I'll tell you what, that damn movie just was a joke.
It was, but I own it. Because it's one of those things. It's that movie and that Will Smith movie. Armageddon, I think it was.
Oh no, you're thinking Independence Day.
Yeah, Independence Day. Those movies, they fucking suck, but I will watch them over and over again, at least once a year.
Right.
Just because they're fucking entertaining. Except for that newest Independence Day. That was a pile of shit.
See, the Independence Day for me hasn't aged well for me.
No.
All those freaking Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin movies are just not really that good, except for maybe The Patriot with Mel Gibson. I actually enjoy that film.
Good movie.
Yeah,
that was a good movie.
So
I like Mel Gibson though, even though he went psycho.
I think he's gotten it back together. I think his problem was that he was just drinking too much.
Probably.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. He's dealing with the pressures of trying to be a Catholic in Hollywood, trying to make meaningful movies and have Hollywood actually not scorn the movies because he's, a Catholic.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, we are getting King Kong film versus Godzilla. I loved Kong Skull Island. I thought Kong Skull Island was pretty good. But especially for for whatever reason, Samuel L. Jackson's you know gangster attitude hasn't gotten old yet, and I might have actually liked the Revenge of the Sith, or freaking Mace Windu. I probably might have liked this character a little bit better if he was a little bit more like, yo, motherfucker, I'm gonna get my damn lightsaber and jam it up your ass or some shit like that. You know.
See, I've already forgotten who's in it. I watch it and I'm like, okay, that wasn't horrible. It wasn't good, but it wasn't horrible.
Yeah.
And then I moved on and forgot.
Kraggles thinks that Roland's worst film was 2012, the shitty disaster film. I think for the spectacle of it all, I thought the spectacle was freaking great. Just and the premise behind what the Mayans predicting us.
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of, those were cool. But yeah, the the part where they had the disposable boyfriend.
Well, the thing is, I loved that movie. I did. But because I love disaster films, I just absolutely love them. Even though it drives me crazy that almost every single one has almost the same fucking story behind it. A divorced couple worried about their kids. And it's either, at least they go back and forth, or whether it's the wife or whether it's the husband. But, they're an expert in their field and have, they're really good at it, but there's some kind of darkness hanging over their head for, they like did a false alarm or something at some point in time. And it's the same fucking shit every time. But I love the visuals. I love to see that shit just getting wrecked.
Right.
Love that stuff. I'll watch any disaster film. Give me a disaster film and I'm happy. Especially on a Sunday afternoon, a disaster film just works beautifully. Something about it.
See, and and that's just a very common trope, the whole divorced couple thing. I mean, even with the great James Cameron movie Leviathan. Was it Leviathan? No, it's not Leviathan. The Abyss. The Abyss.
Oh, yeah.
Leviathan was an actual horror movie. I thought that was a great film. But they had that common trope, we still love each other, but we got divorced because we can't make it work. And then all of a sudden, same thing with Twister. We brought that one up earlier.
Yep.
And it's just like, Jesus Christ, can y'all just well, actually they weren't quite divorced in Twister, but the point being is, split couples, whatever.
Yeah, split couples. At least that one didn't have kids involved.
Yeah,
at least they're only worried about their own asses this time.
Definitely.
But yeah, these fucking, these tropes that you use over and over again. One of the ones that I absolutely abhor is the movie, and some good movies have come out of this, but where somebody has either killed or put in danger my family, and I've got to go fucking save them, or get even for them. It's like, God damn it, it's over. And it's almost always a man, which makes it, I'm not going to dispute whether, a man's stronger, yada, yada, yada. It's just that makes it even older because it is the exact same storyline. At least I've seen, I don't remember what the movie was, but I have seen a movie where it was the woman, the wife in the situation. And that was at least a little refreshing. It at least changed the storyline enough to make it like, okay, it is a bit different. It's a bit refreshing, but my God, that's been overdone. That storyline has been overdone. And I'm sick of it.
So you don't like him anymore?
No, I don't. Those I do not. Those I cannot get over. At least the disaster movies, I can get over that shit because the rest of it is pretty damn cool to watch.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know what the storyline is going to be, but hey, give me those visuals. Destroy everything, please.
Please. As much as anybody, but something has to be done. Jesus Christ. There we go. Sorry, I just, for whatever dumb reason, I checked my Facebook feed and no. People talking about, hey, I'm from the Second Amendment, but something has to be done. And of course, not a single one of them is going to talk about making access to the schools harder for these shooters to get into. Jesus. Anyway, that's off topic.
That's okay. I know you brought that up as a possibility of something to talk about if this didn't work out, and it looks like it's not going to work out. It looks like he's not going to be showing up. We can talk a little bit about the school shooting thing, only because that's a serious topic, and I didn't want to get serious. But I saw somebody post something last night on Twitter, and I retweeted it. They brought because everybody always just talks about guns are the issue. No, mental health is the issue. They just go back and forth between those two fucking things. And somebody else brought up, the first time I've seen this, that it's the children that are the issue.
Well, that still falls under the it's a human issue.
It's definitely a human issue, but there's something going on with the kids because, we're older, and I think most of our viewership here that's watching is older. I don't think we have any 20-year-olds in our viewership at the moment in time. This shit didn't go on when we were in school.
I mean, they happened, but gosh, as to the frequency, I don't know that the frequency has increased exponentially. I think the difference being is the exposure of a school shooting these days.
I agree, and I used to be of the mindset that, well, things aren't actually getting worse in the world. It's just that our ability to know about it has increased.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think in this circumstance, because, the first one I ever heard about, and that's just because I never heard about any other ones, was the Columbine. That's the first one that I ever heard about.
Yeah, that was the first one I really heard about, too.
Yeah. So it's like before that, it wasn't really a thing. And I think something that goes along with that is before that, nobody gave a shit if you got bullied. Everybody was of the mindset that, yes, some people get bullied. It fucking happens. And you just deal with it.
Right. And I think the difference too, as far as the bullying aspect goes, is, when I was a kid growing up, though my mother wanted me to keep out of trouble. And unfortunately, I did come from a broken home. My mother wound up raising my sister and I from about, for me anyway, from about the age of 5. And realizing she kind of had to play dad, she was just like, well, look, avoid fighting if you can, but if you keep getting bullied, or if somebody tries to start hitting you, you need to fight back.
Yeah.
And do that. And the thing of it is that in my entire primary and secondary schooling, I got into 3 fights. No. Yeah, 3 fights. One when I was in elementary school, I kept having, this one kid kept fucking with me, and he was being cheer led by his by a few of our classmates to fight me. And when he came at me, I just punched him in the face, and that was it. And then we go to the principal's office, and I try to explain to him, it's like, look, this kid's been bugging me. And he came at me, and I just punched him in the face. And then one of the kids in the spirit squad was like, oh, he just he did it, he did that unprovoked, or that's not the language he used. But I was just like, so at the end of it, I was made to look like the one that was bullying, and it got my ass swatted because that was a different time, and my mother wanted my ass swatted if I got in trouble at school. So then twice in high school, somehow I made it through junior high, middle school without ever getting into a fight. Don't know how. No, I take it back. That was a fight I got into also. I got into a fight in junior high and got my ass kicked there because, I let this one kid's shit talking to me get to me, and I tried to start a fight with him instead of, just shit talking back. But anyway. So in that particular case, I instigated the fight and got my ass handed to me.
Oh.
So And then the third fight was first time in high school. Uh, instigated the fight, got my ass kicked. And then the second time in high school, which was the fourth time I ever got into a fight, this guy had been harassing me because they were kind of he and a few other mutual friends of ours were kind of were a little bit into the pop culture, and I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I hung out with them anyway because I liked them, and I needed friends, whatever.
Yeah.
So when I would ask him about shit, I didn't think about asking, whether or not I should be asking about his marijuana in school. he he started accusing me of being a narc, and I'm like, going, yes, I totally fit the description of a high school narc. So anyway, he kept going around telling our mutual friends that he was going to kick my ass and whatnot because he suspected me of being a narc. And these same friends said, "Man, if you don't fight him, he's just going to keep saying he's going to come get you and all that." So I said,
Mm-hmm.
"Fine, whatever." So I decided to face him, and you know that now even though I instigated the fight there more or less. I didn't say I was going to kick his ass, but he got in my face and I punched him once or twice. He went down to the ground. And I got on top of him and was putting my knee into his chest and I grabbed his arm so he couldn't do anything to me. And I said, "Are you going to keep fucking with me? Are you going to keep fucking with me?" He never
Yeah.
fucked with me. He threatened to fight me again one other time. And my friends were just like, "Dude, you already kicked your ass once. Why do you want to freaking push him into another fight?"
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, that's but the point being is that sometimes you got to fight back. And the schools with their zero tolerance on violence, which I understand, but Jesus Christ, can you have at least some perspective that kids get bullied and sometimes they got to fight their bullies.
Yeah. I mean, how they're dealing with it now is just internalizing it. They
Yeah,
just keep it, nobody's giving them any techniques or, you know, ways to get that pent up aggression out. And I think personally, I think that's where the answer to it all is, and where the issue is actually coming from, is the environment and how we are treating the kids and not seeing them as human beings that have just as many issues, if not more, at times as adults do, and they need ways to deal. They don't need to be protected. I think that the fact that we're trying to protect them so fucking much is creating that environment where this shit festers. They've got to learn how to deal with it, and they've got to learn how to. I mean, just alone, the bullies themselves need to be able to learn that if you're a fucking asshole, one of these days somebody's going to be a fucking bigger asshole back to you. And it would be nice if you could get that out of the way before, one of these assholes brings a gun. That
right.
that 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 could be helpful because I'm all for gun ownership. I'm all for it. I don't see an issue with that. We've owned guns in this country since the start, and it's just now that it's becoming an issue. Really, I mean, we've had issues with gun violence, yes, but a lot of that stemmed from the war on drugs and such, creating a more volatile and gang related uh, atmosphere. Um, so it's like, because I had a discussion with somebody that I'm friendly with, who's one of my viewers. They're not here right now. About uh, when I, established that, she brought up that they believe in, taking away guns. I'm like, no, no. I mean, I can understand the mindset, because I was like this person when I was young, because they're in their 20s, they're in the early 20s. I was like that when I was that age. I had the same, very similar mindset. So I can understand that mindset. But you cannot do that. You cannot just take guns away. It's been a staple in our society for the existence of the United States. You can't just all of a sudden do that. And if you do that, you're going to create the same environment that was created with the war on drugs. The sale of drugs is just going to go underground,
Mhm.
and it's going to make gangs bigger and give them more control. Yes, the price of guns will probably go up, but they're still going to be there. They're still going to be viable and something you can find and buy, just like you can do with drugs. You can go outside right now and buy whatever drug you want. You just got to look around. And if you don't have the money to pay for it, you're going to find the money to pay for it. Just like drug users, then you're going to get into them trying to, do robberies and thefts to be able to get the money to do that. So all it does is create more violence and more crime in our country. So that can't be the fucking, answer to it. It can't be. It's just going to make shit worse, in my opinion.
Well, excuse me. You know, I was going back. I had pulled up a page and started looking at the history of school shootings in the U.S. And it definitely. I think in the beginning in the '70s is when they really started um, exploding a little bit. I guess you could say. Interestingly, however, they what they include. One of the things they include in a school shooting was the University of Texas Tower shooting,
Mm-hmm.
which killed 17 people. Yeah, and it's just funny that they consider that when a school shooting, even though I get it, it happened on a university campus.
Yeah.
But, I think of school shootings, I'm thinking of like elementaries, junior highs, and high schools. So,
Yeah, not colleges. Colleges are adults. That's an adult situation. I'm sorry, you're getting
yeah.
to a college, you're a fucking adult now.
And well, the interesting thing is that even if you use, and I'm not saying that any deaths are good, but
No.
if you use when the number of what I can't remember when or who changed the statistics of what they consider to be a mass shooting. It used to be 6, and then they changed it to 4. But even if you go
Yeah.
by that, like in the 1950s, as an example, any school shooting that they had, the most deaths that they had were 2. 2 people died. So that's not a lot.
No.
And again, any number is not a good number. But
No.
from the '70s on, the frequency of school shootings is just about the same until you get to 97, until you get to the '90s, and then it blows up again. It doesn't, 2000s, same thing, 2010s, just about the same, and but the other thing too, okay, so how, I don't know if you've heard this, they've been reporting that there have been 22 school shootings just in this year.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Some of these school shootings that they were including,
Mm-hmm.
like one of them was just an accidental firing of a gun,
Yeah.
like from outside, from off school campus, but because the bullet landed or stopped on some school campus, they consider that a school shooting.
Yeah.
Another gun, in another instance, a police or a school resource officer, his gun somehow or another had accidentally gone off, and they put that, no injuries, no deaths. They put that under as a school shooting. Yeah. So, and that's what a lot of these instances have been about. Well, shit. Crap. Let me just right now. I'm looking at through 2014, so they're breaking it down even more so. Once you get to 2010s, they start going 2010s through 2014. Okay, so I'm looking at 2018 right now, which goes back to 2017. Listen to this shit. Listen, this is what is considered a school shooting. A man shot a pellet gun at a school bus full of children, shattering a window. No one was injured. A criminal justice club student picked up a loaded gun belonging to an advisor which the student thought was an unloaded training weapon. She then shot at a wall target, unintentionally firing a bullet, which went through the wall and broke a window. The advisor was a licensed peace officer permitted to carry a firearm on campus. And this happened here in Texas also. 0 dead, 0 injured. A student was fatally shot on a Wake Forest campus. See, they're throwing these because it happens on a. I don't know if Wake Forest is a public university, but if it's if it's school related, regardless of academic level, they're throwing it in there. Let's see. Shots were fired from a truck in the parking lot of a NET charter high school, targeting a crowd of students during lunch. Okay, I would consider that to be a school shooting.
Yeah.
But like pellet guns and a firearm going off accidentally because the student thought it was, well, the student should have been picking up a fucking gun anyway.
No. I mean, that right there, those instances should not be included. They should be a separate grouping altogether.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those instances might be, if anything, reasoning to not have guns on school property because accidents fucking happen.
Well, look, even this one here. See, this is to me. This is when you have to question whether or not this should be included. Central Michigan University shooting. 19-year-old student James Eric Davis Jr. shot and killed his mother and father when they came to take him when they came to campus to take him home for spring break. Not even students.
Yeah, that should not be included.
So
he could have done that anywhere.
Yeah, he really could have. And no students were involved.
Yeah, okay. It has nothing to do with the school itself.
The student shot and injured in a classroom shortly before a national school walkout. Look, gosh, did this get reported? Okay, this is April 20th, 2008. Okay, so they were doing the school walkout back in last month. You probably remember this. A student was shot and injured in a classroom shortly before a national school walkout for gun control measures.
Well, that's not fucking ironic now, isn't it? Jesus. Now I wonder, what did these parents do to make that kid do that?
Who knows? Well, apparently he was shot. He was shot by a 19-year-old former student.
Yeah.
And I can't even tell if this was intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't say. Man, this is just crazy. It's just crazy. They're just, again, if it's happening on a campus, they're including it on this list.
Yeah. Then you can't use that to figure out if this is a rising issue or not. I think it is from some of those examples is more about an issue of, people, even if they don't own guns, needing to be trained in how to properly handle a gun. I think that's very important because, even if I don't own a gun, and I still haven't done this yet, unfortunately, because it involves money going to a gun range, I still would like to learn how to properly use one. The safety of it, the whole thing. So, accidents don't happen, and let's just go into hypotheticals. If the fucking, apocalypse does happen, I'd like to, if I don't have a gun, be able to go find a gun and know how to fucking use it. Because, you're going to need a gun in an apocalyptic situation. So,
right.
So we're going to buy a, whatchamacallit, not a bow and arrow, but a crossbow. We're going to get crossbows. Because I think those would work better in an apocalyptic situation.
Look, I found this other one here. Okay, that's included in the number of 22 since the beginning of the year. This one happened in Mobile, Alabama. A disagreement between two 16-year-old students escalated when Jonah Neal pulled out a handgun. School administrators noticed the weapon and tried to calm him. Neal then fled across campus. He was pursued by staff until he fired the gun 4 or 5 times into the air. Nobody was injured. Neal was taken into custody and charged for multiple offenses, including possession of a weapon and on school property.
I kind of agree with that being included just because it is a student brandishing a gun, and the reasoning for it probably aligns very similarly with the kids who do go on shooting escapades at school.
Okay, but here's the end of it where I have to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't shoot the gun at anybody. He fired it in the air. If people were at least targets, I could maybe agree with you, but it doesn't even now. Granted, with that, this is just kind of a summary
Mm-hmm.
on the shooting incident itself. But unless just based on what I'm seeing here, if you're not even taking aim at other students before you fire, I don't know. I can't say that this counts as a school shooting. At least not what I would consider to be a school shooting where there was intent to harm. At the very
Well,
least, intent to harm. This kid probably don't know for a fact probably fired the gun into the air to hopefully get the people that were pursuing him to back off.
yeah, but the fact that he brought a loaded gun, I mean, I understand that, kids are stupid and they might want to bring a gun to school to either be like, ooh, look at my gun, or, to be like, look, I have a gun, stop fucking with me. But the intention behind actually, putting bullets in it and bringing it, great that he just shot into the air. That's fucking awesome. That's all he did, but there was definitely an intent behind it because otherwise he would not have put bullets in it and brought it to school.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he brought the gun with the intent to fire at anybody at school.
Maybe not consciously, but subconsciously.
I don't even. Well, I mean, I think it'd be hard to even pursue a subconscious motivation.
Because it's if I were to bring a gun to school, I would actually think about the fact, well, I don't need bullets in it because I'm just, bringing it to show it to people.
Mm-hmm.
So the only reasoning I'd have to put bullets in it is to use it in that fashion.
Right.
I mean, yeah, maybe possibly. I mean, there's always the possibility that his intention was maybe after school he brought it. So after school he was going to go to his special place and do some target practice. That's a possibility, but likelihood, more than likely, the intent was not a peaceful one. Let's just say.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, I think you're a little. I think the challenge is to actually be able to substantiate even the thought that he did it subconsciously, because neither one of us really knows his intent.
No, we don't. Um,
All I can tell you though is that for me it doesn't necessarily qualify as a school shooting, because at least based on what I've read, at no point did he actually point the gun at anybody uh, and threaten to shoot them or anything. And then when he finally does shoot his weapon, it's in the air and not pointed at anybody. Okay,
well,
I mean, yeah, the bullet could have possibly come down and struck somebody. Yeah,
possibly.
but that just doesn't sound as though that was his intent.
They definitely need to, especially with this instance, make categories. There's a category where people were shot intentionally, categories where nobody was shot or injured in any fashion, and then categories that, well, it really didn't have anything to do with the school.
Right.
They need to definitely, separate those categories because the important ones when it comes to the discussion about the situation and being able to tell whether this is a ongoing and escalating problem is knowing the intentional lethality of it.
Right. Now, here's something interesting on that same wiki article. At the bottom of it, it has list of school mass shootings.
Mm.
Now, again, uh, law enforcement, I believe it's law enforcement anyway, categorizes a mass shooting where four or more people are either shot or killed. I can't recall which it is. I think it's just even shot.
Probably just shot.
Excuse me. And when we do that, when we list just as mass shootings of 4 and more, when you look at the number since the beginning of the year, it goes from 22 school shootings to only 2 mass shootings now, in which is Parkland and the one that happened a couple of days ago in Santa Fe, Texas. Now, between the two of them, there were 27 dead, and interestingly enough, 27 injuries.
Yeah.
So you can see when you do it by mass shooting, instead of saying every single freaking incident of a school shooting, regardless of whether there was intent or if a gun accidentally goes off, there have only been 2 mass shootings in the United States since the beginning of the year. Since 2015,
Mm-hmm.
October 1st, 2015, because apparently that was the first school mass shooting since October 24th of the previous year. And this is, if you're doing October 1st to current, there have been 4.
Hmm. See, that's it's
You know what?
hard to
You want to know what the biggest school shooting was?
go
So
on.
in the last, let's say since 2010
Mm-hmm.
to even let's say Parkland,
Yeah.
the biggest school shooting was at Sandy Hook, which took 28. And since then, since Sandy, we'll say between Sandy Hook and Parkland, there was 16, 22, yeah, 22 people died or were killed, and 1, 2, 3, 4 mass shootings since Sandy Hook.
Well, on one level, I'm glad that it's not as big uh, as we're being led to believe.
Mm-hmm.
On
That's
a
my whole
sep-
problem with the news narrative.
yeah, on a separate level, though, it just it's like kids should be able to go to school and not have to even think about that happening.
And to that end, I don't disagree. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, like with not with the realization about 9/11 is that we're just going to have to at some point, sooner rather than later, understand that this is the world we fucking live in now.
Yeah, we've up until 9/11, we've been living in pretty much a pretty, very rarely would some, massively bad shit happen. We're
And
still a relatively safe country to be in
well, for
compared to
me,
other
I'm
countries.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm interrupting you.
Go ahead. I'm done.
For me, that realization was I should have actually been World Trade 93, if
Yeah, a
not
lot of
even
people
if not
forget
even
about it.
before that.
I think since 9/11, people have forgotten about the shit that's fucking happened beforehand.
The
Maybe
thing of it
because it was
is,
all domestic
well,
rather than.
well, yeah, well, see, even with that though, I mean, Oklahoma City was only about 6 years prior to 9/11.
Damn.
Yeah, so personally, I think the administration in which Oklahoma City and World Trade 93 happened just kind of lulled us into a false sense of confidence that well, this shit's going to be taken care of. But the thing of it is that administration was treating this shit as criminal activity instead of what it actually was, and that was terrorist activity.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't understand our until recently position of not looking at Americans as being terrorists. There's shitty people everywhere. So
Yeah,
of course, we'd have our own terrorists. There are terrorist cells in America
yeah, and
that are,
but
domestic, not foreign born.
right. Well, see, the thing is though, as even at that, I believe, like even if we're to just say, our militia type white guys,
hmm
the I think the number of those guys are are pretty small. We don't have, we don't know for a fact exactly how many foreign sleeper cells are in this country
Yeah.
because nobody really wants to investigate that. Um, but I would venture a guess that the number of potential terrorists, not the typical buzz cut white boy, may in fact actually outnumber the typical buzz cut white boy or any incels that we may have.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never really put any thought into it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's again, you know, we've since especially since 9/11 our and even Oklahoma City, you know, are actually I think Oklahoma City was the evidence of hardening our federal buildings.
Mm.
Um, you know, I'm sorry, you know, these until we realize as a country that this shit ain't going to stop, no matter how many guns they try to confiscate.
Yeah.
um, the course of action to take is to harden our schools, and why the fuck not? You know, they're you know they somehow they think that it's going to be easier because I've heard the arguments like, well, that's going to be a lot of tax money. Somehow they think it's going to cost less money, excuse me, to try to confiscate illegal firearms because that's what they're going to go for first. They're going to go for legal firearms first. Because why? Because those firearms are actually registered and they know who owns the government knows who owns them.
Yeah.
And you know, once they've done that, they're going to have to go and find the black market weapons, which they're not going to do. It's just in
No.
my opinion. You know, I'm sorry. You know,
You
this is one
can't.
of those few areas where I'm very cynical. They're
Yeah,
not
they
going to
can't
do
do
that.
it with drugs. They can't do it with guns.
They
Come
can't. Yeah,
on.
yeah. They'll tell us. They'll try to convince us that you know that they can't find every illegal alien that's in the country to deport them, but somehow think they're going to be able to find every fucking gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. So you know, but for some reason, you know, they think that our kids aren't worth the tax dollars. You know, they try to tell people who are NRA members, which I am one of, and I have 0 guns.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that you know that we care more about guns than we do kids. And I'm like, and I'm thinking, well, how does this make you much different from what you accuse the NRA of being? You care more about taking people's rights away
Yeah.
than focusing that energy on protecting kids.
Yeah. I
Harden the fucking schools. I mean, is it really that hard to think about?
yeah. Well, hey, that whole thing about everybody just are these sorts of people just calling the NRA terrorist organization shit. It's like, you know what? I fucking hate the NRA. To be perfectly honest with you, I hate the NRA. They're a horrible organization. They really, really are. They are conniving and will do anything, money thrown around. They try to put fear into, their members and all this shit. But it's just an organization. They're not a terrorist group. They don't really care. They're not out to get anybody. They're only out for themselves. And the organization itself is not representative of its members.
And I don't think its members are, you know, its members and by and large are representative of the organization.
No,
I
it's
mean,
just completely separate. The members are just about, gun rights. That's it. They're gun owners, a lot of them, the majority, and they're about their gun rights. And, cool. That's fine. They're just regular fucking people. You got to look at the NRA as just another business, not a representation of people who own guns.
right. And the thing of it is, on top of that, there are, excuse me, alternatives to the NRA.
Yeah.
And so what's going to happen if one of those organizations come into prominence? Are they going to are they are the anti-gun left going to start calling them terrorists as well? You know, and I actually hope they do, because the minute they start labeling every gun rights group a terrorist organization or some organization that has their hands are bloodied by school shootings or whatnot, the more the people are going to wake up and say, okay, yeah, I think you guys just want to get all the guns off the streets, so to speak. Like, you just want to take people's guns away. You're not interested in keeping people safe. You're just interested in taking people, taking guns away from people.
Yeah, it's kind of freaky because I remember years ago. I mean, this shit's been you've heard uh, from the NRA and a few of Republican candidates. They're gonna try. They want you to take your guns. They want you to take your guns, and all during that time, it was just like nobody's fucking talking about taking your fucking guns. Stop being paranoid about that. But the shitty thing is, now all of a sudden, people are fucking starting to talk about that shit. It's like, what the fuck is going on in this country? Ah,
Yeah, there's just
sensationalism is taking over. Everybody's sensationalizing everything.
mhm.
And it's like, no, just calm the fuck down. Everybody's just another fucking human being. Treat
Look,
everybody else like human beings. That's all you got to fucking do. Don't expect the worst from them. Give them the opportunity to show you whether they are what you fear them to be or whether they are just like you, just with different opinions.
yeah. Well, see, I kind of equate, even though they're different issues. I kind of equate the attitude behind the left when it comes on to gun rights to the left on when it came to gay marriage. And mind you, this is anecdotal, but usually where you can find one person on a particular issue, you can find thousands more that believe the same.
Mm-hmm.
There was this person that I kind of became friends with who strangely enough, went to the same high school I went to, but she started there her freshman year in high school was my freshman year in college. But she was friends with another guy I was actually in high school with, so we got to know each other that way. Anyway, just to kind of give you an idea, she she felt that George Bush was a war criminal, and just like
Come on.
you're gonna have to do some convincing other than just saying he's stupid, because I don't care
Yeah.
how stupid you think somebody is, you have to be intelligent to become the president of the United States. I don't care how dumb you think they are.
You at least need to be able to be intelligent enough to know how to pick people
Hmm.
that are more intelligent than you to make you look intelligent.
Yeah, or at least intelligent enough that you can trust them with the delegation of authority that you give them.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the whole gay marriage thing came up, and this was still a couple of years out before the Supreme Court decision. And that was and I'm still not uh not for gay marriage, although I'm definitely at a place where I'm not willing to necessarily get in the way of of government saying no, we can't have gay marriage, or that we do have to have gay marriage. I'm kind of more of a just let the people in the government decide what they're going to do. I'm out of it.
Mm-hmm.
um so anyway, I kind of I asked her, it's well, so well, what about civil rights that give you every kind of right, or not civil rights, but like a civil union
Mm-hmm.
gives you every right that a traditionally married heterosexual couple has? No, it's got to be marriage. So at that point, I understood that this was not really about gay rights. This was about co-opting the term marriage so that just to kind of put it in the Christians' face that haha, we can say we're married now.
See,
That's when I kind of understood. And this to me is what the anti-gun left is doing now. They can still say that we don't want to take your guns away, but no, you kind of do, because when you want certain guns banned at all, that's you wanted to take somebody's guns away.
see, I don't agree. I don't agree with, actually with any of your points. To be perfectly honest on this, like when it comes to the gay marriage thing, I, I don't think it was about anything to do with shoving it in Christians' faces, or being like, ah, we did this. I don't think it had anything to do with that because the only reason it would come up that anything having anything to do with Christians is predominantly people opposed to the gay marriage were Christians. And the only reason they actually wanted it to be called marriages rather than civil unions is if it's the same thing, why not call it the same thing? Why make the
because at
distinction?
the end it's not the same thing.
But it is the same thing. See,
Mm.
it's a difference of opinion in whether you think marriage is a Christian based thing or not. I don't think marriage is a Christian based thing at all.
You,
Marriage had, the beginning of marriage did not have anything to do with religious faith. Marriage didn't come about because of religion. It came rights and having a legal union between two people had nothing to do with religion.
well, see, right now though, you're talking about government's recognition of marriage.
Yes, but it's
But the religious thing end of it is that marriage has in fact been a religious institution for thousands of years.
yes, but
The
it
government's
didn't come
involvement,
upon.
it's the government's involvement alone that has quote unquote changed the definition of marriage, but only from a government aspect where taxes are involved.
But
That's the only thing about marriage that changed as far as government
no,
goes.
no. The thing is, you may not get my point, or you're just not agreeing with me. Marriage unions and marriage started before religious implementation of it. And even if you don't even want to even deal with that aspect of it, there's plenty of heterosexual couples that get married and have religion having nothing to do with it at all, but they're still considered marriages.
That's government's consideration, not religion's. And
Well, then,
if you want to, and
if
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 you
it's
want to
government,
convince me,
no,
if you
if it's
want to
government,
hold on,
Josh, if it's
for a second, hold on.
government's,
That was kind of my sub point. I have to
okay.
talk about the religious end of it. If you want to convince me that marriage was not founded in religion, you may have to find something to substantiate that claim, because one of the oldest written documents in the history of mankind, that being, the Bible, going back to Genesis,
But it's not.
going
That's not the oldest.
okay, well then you're okay. Well, again, you may have to find something, some kind of documentation that shows that um before the creation of man, which, again, you can say that it's mythology, because Moses wrote the first five, what we consider to be the first five books of the Old Testament. So the history of the beginning of man
That's not the history of the beginning of man.
was given to him by God.
But you
And
have to agree with the fact that that's coming from the Word of God. A
right,
great multitude of
I get it.
people, the majority in this world, do not have a Christian faith.
But that doesn't mean they did not have religion.
Okay, mm, let's then take that aside. Christian religion, marriage did not come from Christianity, so it is not a Christian-based thing.
Right, but I didn't
So it
start
has
with
nothing to
Christianity.
do with
I
the
didn't start with
Christianity, but it's the
Christianity.
Christians. But you said that you think it's a rub in the Christian's face, and my counterpoint to that is it has nothing to do with Christian religion in the first place.
Okay, well, maybe I was being a little too specific, because I still believe that it has something to do with throwing it back in the face of religious people.
I'll give you that there's probably, or there was probably, a few people, a percentage of people out there with that mindset, because there's assholes. There are people who just, are very anti-Christian, period, end of story. Some of which have a valid reason to be that, because it's Christians that have been, um, speaking shit about them
Well, we'll
for
take into
a
consideration
long
this one
time.
thing real quick. As far as a majority of Christians, you have to remember that in this country, the majority of religious people happen to be Christians. But to think that only Christians, even in this country, oppose gay marriage, it
Oh
would just
no,
not be true.
there's other religions,
So,
most certainly.
well, but
Islam.
basically, that's why we have to kind of, and expand it to religion, because you're always going to be able to say, well, it's a majority of Christians that are having a problem with this, and that's because Christians are the majority religion in this country.
Yes. Well, they're also, in this, but still, that's just separate from the thing, but from the situation. Going back to marriage is not a Christian religion situation.
No,
So,
but it is a religious institution.
not a Christian religious institution.
Okay. No, look, you're trying to. I think you're actually trying to be pretty semantical right now. You're focusing too much on Christian religion because you have to remember.
You're the one
Hold
who
on.
brought the Christians into
I'm
this.
right, and I just recently
Okay.
corrected that, saying I probably should have said religion, not specifically Christianity. But even then, if we even focused on Christian religion, what religion does Christianity come from?
Judaism.
Right. Now, which religion between the two is oldest?
Judaism.
Okay. So I think we can at least agree that Judaism is a faith, whether it was called specifically Judaism or not. I mean, the tenets behind it all are still the same. That Judaism has been around for 5,000, 7,000 years.
I have
So
no idea on that.
no, I'm
I'm
telling
not
you,
looked in. I'm
I'm
not
telling
looked
you
into.
I'm telling you it's about that old.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, very old faith, whereas Christianity itself only has 2,000 years behind it. It's still it's pretty the only faith younger than Christianity that I can think of off the top of my head is Islam. That's only about 600 years old, 700 years old. No, 600. Yeah. So the point is that, there you'd have to show me something where marriage was taking place in where it was not instituted with any particular religion, which I think would be a rather tall order
Not
to
really.
do,
Pagans.
considering as that religion, unlike science, has been around with it's been around with humans longer than science has.
I wish I could remember the documentary I saw about this. And it explicitly stated that, yeah, it had nothing to do with religion. And
Okay,
I'm
but
going to stand
let's
by that because I have, but I can't give you any references because it's been a long time. It's been many years since I've looked into that shit.
right.
So I can't.
Okay,
At
but even at that, so if we go based on Hebraic or Jewish religion, as far as the Jews are concerned, God established marriage when he paired together Adam and Eve.
but even then, even if we're going to go with marriage comes from a religious standpoint, there's many fucking religions before even Judaism
Okay.
when marriages occurred. And
Okay, but even then, but you'd have to
not
still
all
be
of
able to
those
prove
were
that none of them were religious.
anti-gay.
But you'd still have to prove that none of those were not religious. Because like it or not, because even okay, so let's
Well,
let's say let's say that the
I
ancient
already
Egyptians.
said we can take out whether or not it's religious based. We can take that out of the equation. It still comes down to, regardless, as in our country, and that's what we're talking about, gay marriage in our country, marriage is not established across the board as a religious right. It is just a union between two people.
But nobody,
So there's
no,
no
well,
reason
not
why it
okay.
shouldn't be called a marriage because
Well,
that's what it is.
if that's the case, then nobody has a right to marriage because nothing about marriage is constitutional.
Honey, that's an easy thing. I mean, nobody really does because, and you can look at it from many points of view. That even if you take it as a Christian union or a Christian, happening, um, even the majority of the Christians aren't doing it the way the Bible says you should need to be doing it. So
Are you talking about the marriage ceremony or just the
no, the actual
institution of
having
marriage?
the institution of marriage, the what goes on in a marriage. I mean, nobody does it right. I mean, there's very few marriages. The divorce rate, the cheating rate. I mean, nobody does it in like that. Nobody does. So pretty
Yeah, but
much
that's not
doesn't matter
necessarily
if you're
indicative.
heterosexual or
The
not.
divorce rate is not necessarily indicative as to whether or not Christians are doing it correctly or incorrectly, because the fact
Well,
of the
if they're
matter
not
is,
doing it
hold on,
correctly, they have no right to say that something
hold
else that
on,
doesn't fit
wait a
their
second.
thing
The fact of the
can.
matter is that basically government has made it way easy for people to get divorced. And the thing of it is that if we we could sit here and do a subtopic just on marriage and why divorce happens as frequently as it does. But the fact of the matter is that how religion even comes into play with that. The fact that government has made it easier doesn't mean that, because you got to remember, divorce is a two-way street, and because one person in the marriage wants to continue to fight for the marriage and say that they're Christian and doing it because and fighting for it because their faith says that they should, the other person in that is but in no means obligated to stay into that marriage. I mean, because the law says you want a divorce, get the fuck out.
Yeah, and that's how it should be.
Okay, well, and that's something that you and I can also disagree on. I don't think it should be so.
We're going to disagree on this completely, I believe. And I find it fucking funny as shit that in 2018 we're having an argument about this.
The current year is really irrelevant because it can be 2318, and you're still going to find people of religion who don't believe that gays and lesbians should be getting married.
But here's the thing.
And I'm sorry. The only reason why
let me finish my statement. They have every right to have that opinion. They totally have the right to have that opinion. But the fact of the matter is, their opinion is solely their own, and they cannot push their opinion on everybody else because it's only theirs. It's not everybody else's. They do not get to dictate what happens to everybody else's life.
But at the same time, it's interesting that you would use that as an argument, though.
Why?
When because hold on, I'm trying to tell you why. Because there are to have even one instance where gays are trying to force their will on a private business is them. Well, it's just what you said. No, that nobody has a right to push their beliefs onto other people.
Yeah, they don't.
Yet we're getting that from the same people that you are saying other people shouldn't have their beliefs forced upon.
Yeah, but their opinions aren't the same as my opinion.
There's no but because this is what's happening.
They're the fact that even these gay people who go to the places that you have to make a cake for me, they're wrong. They don't have the right to do that either. It's a private business.
But have you noticed though that governments are forcing the will of a minority of people onto the will of the majority?
But that's government. It's a different situation. You have to be governed by law. You have to follow that regardless.
Is it a separate situation?
It is. From what we're
compartmentalize the situation. Yes, you can compartmentalize it.
We are only talking about individuals.
No, yeah, you were talking. That's what we were talking about when gay marriage was a thing. It's because of individuals that gay marriage is now a thing.
Yes, but because they have the freedom and the right to have the same rights as the rest of the nation.
Yeah, but there's nothing.
Everybody of legal age has the right to be able to establish themselves in that institution of marriage.
But the thing of it is that there is absolutely nothing in the Constitution that says anybody has a right to marriage.
No, but why should there be? The
There shouldn't be.
Constitution is the
Government should
basis.
absolutely not be involved in
Constitution is
marriage.
the basis. Well, then who? I mean, what are you going to like? Okay, everybody gets to vote. Do these two people get to get married? I mean, is that your solution? I mean, what would be the solution then?
Well, we've already had an instance where people got to vote on whether or not their state was going to have gay marriage, and because the gay and lesbian community couldn't convince enough people that they should have a right to the word marriage, not not any equivalent institution of it, which civil unions in states such as California would have given them every single right that the word marriage would have given them, because most states consider marriage to be a civil union to begin with. The main difference between the two is that somebody wanted to go to church and have their marriage recognized by God, if you will, and but obviously these churches couldn't do that for gays because their religion prohibits that.
And that
The
that's fine.
civil unions were going to give gays absolutely every single right that every heterosexual
Yeah,
married
but
couple could have.
see, the thing when you use that argument, it just you can use it the flip as well.
Okay, Sean, tell me how it
So,
can be
so
used
why
in the
can't they use the
inversion.
word? If it's the same fucking thing, why can't they use the word? If it's the same thing,
Because the
it's
word again is established in religious faith.
the word itself. Now that you'd have to give me an instance of, or proof of that word, not the actual union of two people, but that specific word.
That's what that word is. It's the union of a man and wife.
Yes, but that comes from the fact that back in the day, yeah, people didn't come out of the closet. The majority is heterosexual.
Okay.
That's just the majority.
Okay. Yeah,
So, I
you're
mean,
right.
but there are instances of people who are not in the majority. And
Hmm.
just because they are not of the majority doesn't mean that they shouldn't have, the access to the same stuff that the majority
But
has.
they were going to be okay. Again, in many states, they had said that gays may have civil unions, which would give them every single
It's,
right that a heterosexual
it's the
couple
same
had.
right. So it's the same thing. So it can be the same word.
Okay, that's
It's
fine.
kind of
And
like
so, well, see, here's
going
well,
into
here's
this
the
whole
yeah.
non-binary
Speaking of that,
thing.
well,
That's
speaking of
going into
that,
the whole non-binary thing that oh well, we have to make a completely new different word for this and a completely new different word for that. No, you don't.
well, see, that's
It
the
can be
thing,
the
though.
same
That's the
fucking
thing.
word, just
You're
with
talking
different
about the same
names.
word. Okay, I get it. You're talking about the same word. Going back to the story I had, I asked my friend, okay, so what if we just do away with the word marriage and just call it all civil unions?
Yeah, why not?
Hold on. She said no.
She said
She
no.
said no. It has to be marriage.
Well, then she's a cunt.
Well, yeah,
Because what the
that's besides the point, because again, I'll go back to the argument that if you have one person on a particular side of issue who believes that way, you can damn sure believe you're going to have thousands. And you
yeah,
know what else? And you know what else? They're going to be the most vocal. And the most vocal will have a lot of people believing that the majority of this group feels the same way when they probably don't. Because to believe that every single gay person, and I'm not saying this is your belief, I'm just speaking in
mm,
general, to have a belief that every single gay person just felt that they had to have the word marriage involved with whatever the state considers to be a civil union, didn't really agree with that. Hell, I knew, again, it's sheer anecdotal, no scientific research done on this, but Jesus, the gay people I knew that I used to hang out with in the late 90s and early 2000s didn't really care if they if anybody said that they were married or not. They
yeah.
were absolutely disinterested in being considered married by the law.
Oh,
They were okay with each other being considered, with them considering themselves married to one another.
I agree with your point there. I completely agree with your point there.
Now nowadays, okay, I can personally still disagree with the notion of, because see, here's the other fear, and I'm not saying that I'm just saying that this is a fear expressed by other religious people. I mean, Ben Shapiro being namely one of them, is that, he absolutely still feels that there will be a time when the ideological leftists, gay and lesbians, are soon going to be demanding that churches, I mean, shit, we've already seen it with wedding cakes, for fuck's sakes, that they're going to start demanding that churches marry them, and that if the churches don't, that the government will take away their tax exemption status. And you know what that causes? That causes a violation of the establishment clause. That is actually in the Constitution.
I agree, but I don't. Going back to what you've already said about the gay homosexual people that you knew that really didn't give a shit. That I don't believe is actually going to be coming from. I mean, that's a possibility. That is I could see that fucking coming. I could definitely see that coming, but I don't think that it's specifically coming from actual homosexuals. I think that's coming from just these left-wing crazies.
The virtue signaling left,
Yes, those
heteros,
motherfuckers.
the virtue,
Those ones that I hate that make my liberalism look bad. Yeah, fuck them.
yeah,
I hate them. But yeah, that bullshit. Yeah, I could see them doing that.
yeah.
I don't think actual, because so many people now are latching themselves onto the LGBT community.
Mm-hmm.
They're just latching themselves onto it, and they're not.
They have a cause.
Yeah, so they're just like, okay, rather than making their own fucking cause or their own organization, they latch on to one that's already pre-existing.
Mm-hmm.
Same with feminism. They, like, well, rather than making our own, we're just going to latch onto this and talk real loud. And it's like, make your own fucking group, okay? You're making the rest of us look like shit.
You're making people who actually are sincere about their beliefs in gay marriage being a thing look like assholes.
Yeah, and it's very, very annoying.
Right.
It's so annoying as a liberal.
Okay, so you and I have gotten a bit distracted from the live chat. Not that there's been a lot of activity on there.
No, I think I don't know if they just zoned out or if they were just like.
Well, Craggles about 20 minutes ago says that he disagrees with your opinion on the gay marriage thing. I don't know if his opinion has changed since then. I kind of doubt it. Trev said hello about 6 minutes ago. Hey, Trev, the everyday man, good to see you.
Craig said he's with me.
He did.
Don't twist what he said. He says he agrees with me.
I didn't twist what you said. All I said was that I don't know if his opinion has changed since 20 minutes ago. Triax666 says all religion should lose its tax exemption status. I used to have a good argument about why that shouldn't, but I can't. I just can't right now.
He's still with me. He's still with me.
He's still with you. Okay, good.
I don't think they should lose their. Well, I get the point of that.
No, let's not even bother. Let's not. Let's
okay.
just not. Let's just.
Okay. Get off the religious subject because we are vastly different on that.
Well, yeah, but this. Okay, so let me tell you where I was. Okay, fair enough. Okay, Craggles, that if you had said that in private to her, I don't know why your text came to me late. Because now I'm seeing it in the chat. But anyway, see where I am now, that where I got to be was that I was serious when I mentioned civil union to that former friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Was I'm like, fine, let's just do it with marriage, because whether you're gay or straight, you're going to call your civil union a marriage anyway. You're going to call each other husband, wife, husband or wife.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just get away with the word religion from its involvement in government, because that's unfortunately where we've gotten to. And government has been incentivizing marriage for decades now, which I don't think it should. No. you get a tax break just for being fucking married.
Yeah, I've never understood that.
And then you get a tax break. Then you get a tax break for the number of kids you have. Jesus Christ! Listen to this. Not to to leave my friend's name out of it. A friend of mine, because she's a single, up until a few days ago, was a single mom with 2 kids. Even though the father of the second kid was helping her take care of both kids. She was able to claim her kids and be a single mom on her most recent taxes. And because of the kids, she gets a tax credit on that. Plus, she's
Mhm.
also in school, so she gets tax credit for whatever write off she can get on that. For fuck's sake, her tax return came to almost $11,000.
What?
Yes,
What the fuck?
$11,000. Mine was about a tenth of that. It,
That's
yeah, it's crazy.
I didn't know it was that bad. I mean, I already had seen with my experiences with, being, not able to work and all that stuff and having to deal with these organizations or these, welfare type situations. Um, yeah, well, I don't even want to say kind of if you're white and you don't have any kids, it's stacked against you.
Hmm.
So
I try to claim my minority status whenever I can when it comes to shit like that. But not that
I
I
don't
like
blame you.
to. Not that I'd like to. I'm sorry.
I don't blame you. I mean, other people are doing it.
I
My
take it.
wife,
Well, I take it
uh,
back. I
yeah.
don't really. I don't really. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what. I
You
don't
probably just
even.
don't think about it.
Yeah, I don't even claim. I try not to claim my minority status even when I'm filling out school applications or job applications, rather.
I just don't. I've never understood why they ask that,
Hmm.
other than trying to give minorities more. Other
It's
than
it's
that,
it's
I don't.
about what's it called? Affirmative. It's about affirmative action points, is what it is.
It just seems asinine to me.
Yeah.
I mean, who the fuck cares what ethnicity I came from?
There are some who do.
I don't. I don't.
I just don't believe they're in the majority anymore. Well, I don't think that they were ever in the majority, to be honest. Now that I think about it,
Mm,
at least not in our lifetime. And I'm kind
I'm
of old.
yeah. You're a little older than me.
Yeah, I'm damn near the century mark, for fuck's sake, half century mark, rather.
Yeah, you're close. I'm trudging behind you, coming,
But
walking that
like I
way.
said, but as far as the marriage thing goes, during that conversation, I became real quick. I became cooler with the idea of civil unions happening, not just for gays, but for straight people too.
Yeah.
Just get away with the whole marriage thing, okay? Just
Yeah,
get
I'd
rid
be
of it.
fine with that. I was always fine with that too. I didn't really I I, I didn't understand the opposition to calling it marriage. And I still don't. I don't just don't understand that. But, that's me and my opinion. Um
Well, I think
but
you
I
understand. I think you at the very. I say I don't believe that you don't understand it. I believe you can and would understand it if you just understand that it's a religion thing. You don't have to agree with it, but that is
yeah,
why there was opposition to it. It was a religious thing for a lot of people.
then we'll
So
just say I
it's okay to
just
understand
don't
that much. It's
I
you don't
don't
have to
agree.
agree with it.
Well, we'll say I'll just do not agree with it. But at the same time, I didn't really um give a shit because I'm bisexual, so the possibility that I would want to marry a woman would be there. Um, I just didn't. I personally would not have given a shit what the fuck it was called,
Yeah, no,
but
I
I
get that.
understood the wanting of having it. It's like it was just a representation of being equal. It's rather than being a second class citizen. So I understood that. I personally didn't give a flying shit what it would be called, but I understood the desire for to feel equal to the rest of your community.
Mhm.
So that's where I stood on that back in those days.
Well, and see, here's one aspect of this whole argument that we hadn't even touched on. It just made me there was something that popped in my head about it when this was being argued in front of the Supreme Court. One of the justices actually asked um, one of the proponents of or one of the opponents to gay marriage bans was do you think that basically asked if they um, agreed with the idea of polygamy or even bigamy or even you know, parents want to marry their kids or whatever. He was
Mm.
basically asking them if they felt like if this person felt like there was a slippery slope situation. And no, we would
Mm.
definitely be opposed to bigamy, polygamy, uh, parents marrying their kids, whatever.
Yeah.
First cousins get married, whatever. Which, unto its face, I'm like, well, this is kind of then this is hypocritical because basically you're saying you oppose non-traditional marriage while being for what would be considered non-traditional marriage. And the other end of it is that sure enough, we have gotten stories in the last few years since the Supreme Court decision of fathers wanting to marry their daughters and feeling like they should be able to because, well, there's gay marriage. That's a non-traditional marriage setting. Why the hell can't I marry my daughter?
That's just. I would want to go to that person and slap them like it's fucking common sense, dipshit. It's common fucking
Hold on.
sense.
Well, see, same-sex marriage kind of opposes common sense. At least
No, because
but yes, because in the natural order of things, it
no,
does.
in the natural order of things, the same percentage of homosexuals in humans is the same or around the same percentage of homosexuals in animals. So homosexuality
No. You
is a
cannot use
natural
that
thing.
argument. Okay, this
Yes,
is
I
why.
can.
No, hold
It
on.
is. There are
But I'll tell you why it
homosexual
fails.
animals out there. There's
Let
been
me tell you why it
homosexuals since
fails.
the dawn of man.
Let
We've
me
been
tell you why it
around the whole
fails.
fucking time.
Let me tell you why it fails.
Mm-hmm.
This is why the argument fails. Yes, human beings do fall into the animal kingdom, right? We
We
do.
certainly do.
And whenever you see instances of homosexuality, okay, if a male cat humps another male cat, does that mean they're having a sexual homosexual relationship?
You mean hump or actually have intercourse?
Well, they can't have intercourse. That's
Well,
the
I don't
thing.
know. Can they?
I don't think so.
Well, but it's a
I have never
romantic.
seen a male cat inserted into another male
Well,
cat.
that's the thing though. You got to take the sex out of it. I mean, yes, it's a sexuality, but it's still a pair bonding.
Okay, but the
It's
thing
a
of it is,
romantic thing.
okay, well then, if that is your stance, then how can you equate what we decide to do as humans as that opposed to animals who are just basically acting out their sexual frustration?
No, it's a sexual. It's an instinct for them. It's not. They're not.
It's their
No,
sex. Yeah, it's a
there's
sexual
the
instinct for them to
humping
hump
that you
things.
see. Each animal, it's pair bonding. Pair bonding is what you have to look at, not the humping. Because yes, just taking dogs, female dogs will hump other dogs. It's a sign of dominance.
Right.
It's not a sign of sexual frustration. It's not a sign of that. Occasionally, yes, it's sexual frustration. If that little peen comes out, yeah, it's sexual frustration. But if that's not involved, then it is an act of dominance. So you have to take that humping or that's, slightly sexual looking thing out of the equation. And it's about a pair bonding. And there's plenty of animals out there that pair bond in a homosexual way with a member of the same sex.
Okay, but see, the thing of it is that animals, especially social animals,
mm-hmm.
that's where you're going to see this from. But that doesn't mean that that when you talk about homosexuality, we're actually talking about, there actually, as you mentioned, there being a degree of romance involved. Okay. Animals, even though they make attempts to woo any potential mate, does not make it romance. Okay, so that's the difference between animals and humans, is that we are capable of romantic gestures, in a more I guess you can say sincere way than, oh well, Mel Baboon went and got berries for his mate and presented them as a gift. Okay, that's mating. That's more of a mating ritual that becomes instinctual.
Yeah, but
For us,
you look at the ones
if I
that
decide
pair
to
bond.
go out and get you a bouquet of your favorite flowers because that is some way I know you more intimately, then that is what I would consider, at the very least, a concept of romance that a sentient being such as ourselves can actually accomplish. Okay, for the way we view romance is definitely at a higher level and less instinctual than what animals do.
Yes, but that doesn't matter. There's still homosexuality in both.
It's but you're still talking
There's
about
still pair bonding.
you're still talking about species of animals that cannot discern as to whether or not what they're doing is right or wrong like we can. Now we
Okay,
tend hold
okay,
on. Now we
okay,
tend to
okay. Whoa.
override what we consider to be right or wrong because it's what we want to do. And as far as nature goes, the in the animal kingdom, with the exception, well, even no, I'm sorry, not even with the exception of humans, in the animal kingdom, I guarantee you that when these pair bonded same sex animals decide that when nature kicks in and they decide that they need to procreate, homosexuality is out the fucking window.
The procreation is separate from bonds. That you don't. I mean, you can have a bond and not procreate. You may not be able to procreate, so you can't lump that in.
I'm talking strictly in the animal kingdom, okay? Because again, you're trying to make the comparison of humans to the rest of the animal kingdom that do things based more on instinct, where we do things more based on thought.
Okay, but here you go. You brought in the right and wrong.
They don't know
Instinct,
what's right or wrong. They
yeah,
don't know.
instinct can't be wrong.
No, you're right. It can't. Instinct cannot be wrong.
So if
But again, you're
a
still
in the
talking about
human world, a
animals.
homosexual person, it's instinctual. It's not a choice, it's an instinctual thing. So it can't be considered wrong.
It can be, and it can be
It
because
should
here's the
not
difference.
be.
Okay,
It
look,
should not be. If
this
it's an
idea,
instinctual thing, it's not
it's
wrong.
not instinctual for humans. I'm sorry. You
Yes,
look.
it is
Hold on.
instinctual.
No, gays can talk about all they want about how science says that they are born with homosexuality, and you know what? It's probably true.
Mhm.
It's probably true that they're born homosexually. But the difference is that they can still decide as sentient beings, possible of reasoning and logic, decide as to whether or not they wish to act upon that. Because let me tell you something: when it comes to gays that have been gay their whole life, but also happen to be religious and believe that homosexuality is a sin in the eyes of God,
It's
they
sad.
no, you're talking. Okay, you have to keep up with me. I'm talking about people who are Christian that happen to be
Oh, I
gay.
still think it's sad.
I'm talking. Hold on. These are people that believe their faith tells them that their homosexuality or acting just like their faith tells them that fornication is wrong, whether you be gay or straight. They decide to not act upon that which their God sees as sinful, and it's a burden. I can only imagine what a burden that is. I mean, for fuck's sakes, if it's a burden for a straight person who's a Christian to abstain from sex until their marriage, I can only imagine what a burden it is for gays who try to abstain from having homosexuality intercourse. Oh Jesus Christ, I'm losing my words. But do you get what I'm saying? Is that
I get
the big difference between us and the rest of the animal kingdom is that we can reason, we can logic, and we can decide for ourselves whether or not we believe that the way we're built sexually is innate or nurtured, that we can still make the decisions as to whether or not we are going to either indulge in our instincts, or if we're going to delay gratification for however long feel like we need to delay that gratification. Animals can't do that shit.
But that does not take the comparison out of that.
It
In whether,
when you bring
it's
thought,
natural or not. I mean, you're going with my what I'm stating, that it's instinct. Instinct is nature. So it makes homosexuals natural.
but you're also assuming that I
Instinct is
agree.
nature.
You're also
You're
assuming that I
using the
agree
word.
that homosexuality is innate. I don't believe that it is.
It totally is. You're
Science. Okay,
talking
look,
shit. I don't give.
I
No,
know
no,
there
no,
are
no.
scientific
I
articles out
don't
there
give
that
a
say so.
fucking shit about science. I don't give a shit about science when it
Well, you're
comes to
going to
this.
have to give a shit about science
No, I
because
don't.
science is what's going to support your
No.
argument. Okay,
Great
well
that it
then
supports
then
it.
this is
Great. Fuck it that it supports it.
okay.
But
Then what you're
I'm
doing is that you're doing
bisexual.
a
I
faith thing.
know that it's instinctual for me to like both.
That doesn't
I'm
mean
living the
that. Yeah,
experience.
but you don't. I'm sorry.
So I'm real. It is instinctual. So therefore, it's
You
real and
need.
natural, and you were born that way.
Okay, no, I'm sorry. There's look. You can ignore science, but see, this is when you become more of a person of faith because you don't because you want to ignore the science behind it
I'm
and
a
just
person of
believe.
experience.
That doesn't matter. That
No,
doesn't.
it's not
It's
faith. It's not science. It's a person. It's of experience. It's
right.
of my actual life.
Okay, but then again, you have to talk. You have to find out. Well, you don't have to find out. There is still a difference between what you're actually born with and what how you were nurtured growing up, because the way you're nurtured can actually affect your sexuality. And if the nurturing part of it affects your sexuality, then it's not nature.
How in the world? I mean, yes, the nurture. Your what happens to you and your experiences and how you were brought up affects you most certainly. But what the fuck could my parents have done to make me bisexual?
It may have absolutely zero to do with what your parents did.
I mean,
It could have been any experience, for fuck's sakes. It could have been your friends that might have triggered something like that.
if it
This is
triggered
why
it,
I
that
say,
means it was in my nature to do so.
but this is why I say or would contend that you need that science has to be involved at some point to discover whether or not it's nature versus nurture. And there are scientific articles that make the argument that homosexuality is in fact innate, while at the same time there are articles that suggest that homosexuality is more of an environmental thing.
But here's another point that disagrees with you. The fact that homosexuals have been around since mankind has been around. This isn't some new phenomenon.
Okay,
We've
I
been
don't
around
disagree with that.
forever. So, and our life experiences are utterly different than what they would have been when we first became Homo sapiens.
Okay, well, at that, I'm going to offer you an opportunity for clarification, because when you tie in life experiences as to whether or not homosexuality is nature or nurtured, saying that when you bring in life experiences, that would indicate that, or it may indicate rather, that we are now talking about nurture.
I'm using your point to prove your point wrong.
But
I'm not agreeing
it
with that.
doesn't
I'm
though.
saying I'm
You
using
can't
your point.
use. Yeah, but
Yes, I can.
you're using my point to actually validate my point.
How the fuck does that validate your point?
Because
Chat,
you're
how
saying
does
that.
that
Okay,
validate
so
his point?
then restate what you. That's what I'm saying. I'm
I'm
offering you
saying,
the opportunity to
yeah,
restate, because just based on what you said, it sounds like you agree that
no,
experiences have a lot to do with
no.
whether or not you're homosexual.
I'm saying that if that were the case, um, the fact that our experiences and how we are brought up and how we are interacted with all those nurture things that happen in the beginning that you are saying could be the reasoning for homosexualities is excessively and extremely vastly different
No,
than
but you also mentioned something about how gays have been around for thousands of years.
yes.
Okay, but see, and I think you were trying to use that as a argument why it's more of our nature to be gay.
How would that be more of our nature? That would be the
You're
existence is
saying, well,
natural.
okay,
That's
right.
what
So
it
you're
would
saying
be.
that's so right, that nature natural. So it sounds like you're making the argument
No,
that because
I'm
gays
making the
are wrong.
argument that the being homosexual is natural and that The fact that you are born that way. Natural is being born that way.
Okay, so
That is instinctual. That is how
so
you came
you're
about.
saying
This is
that the
you.
fact that gays have been around for thousands of years unto itself says that homosexuality is natural.
Yes, and comes from being born that way.
Okay, that does not that does not conclusively prove that it's natural.
If that doesn't conclusively prove, then you have an astronomical viewpoint of, or this, it has to reach this fucking high of proof. That's a
Because it does.
massive
Because
amount. If you can, you
this is
just
where
take
science comes into
humanity
play.
as, since we, the whole entirety of the existence of Homo sapiens. If that's not good enough proof for you, nothing's ever going to be proof for you.
That's not, well, I mean, that's the conclusion you can draw, but here I am asking for scientific evidence that proves one way or the other.
And you've already said that there is
You are trying to
scientific
dismiss the need for scientific evidence.
I'm not dismissing it. I'm saying, regardless of it, I know.
You absolutely did dismiss scientific
I
evidence.
dismissed it as in it doesn't apply to my argument because I do not need it. I do not need those studies because of my own life experience and the person that I am and who I was born. I know myself.
Which is entirely anecdotal. And
Doesn't
that's
matter if
not
it's anecdotal. That's not
you are talking about.
anecdotal.
You made the comparison to yourself. You said your life experience is enough proof to know that you are naturally or
Now, who's getting
innately.
into semantics now?
No,
You
this
know
is
the point I'm fucking making.
Okay, at
You
some
understand the point I'm making, but you're trying to get all semantic-y on me in here.
Semantics eventually do come into in part what it is, but again,
But you know what I'm saying.
dismissed it. You dismissed the need for scientific evidence based on your own experience. Did you not?
Experiences in my just general being.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
I was born.
That's what I'm asking.
I was born this way. I have always been this way.
Okay, you have known that because you're basing your knowledge. You're basing your knowledge from what I can tell on your own experience, which in its own effect, a form of faith. Because you have, from what it sounds like, you haven't.
You mean faith? It's an instinct.
Okay, you can say it's an instinct all you want, but you haven't backed up what you've said, and nor have I, really, to be honest with you. I'll admit that neither one of us have really given scientific evidence to one another here, other than what we may have read. But the fact of the matter is that, until we can at least try to involve science a little bit, what you actually, no, it's not very well. You are an outlier because, like it or not, bisexuality, homosexuality is a very, very, very small percentage of the, just not even U.S. population, but global population.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree. It is.
So at some point, though, we have to get into you don't have to.
All right.
You don't necessarily have to, but at some point, we have to understand at least some kind of science behind it. Like I said, you don't have to because you believe your experience is enough to tell you that, that your bisexuality is innate. I think that, that is quite possible, but I think the other possibility is that it could have also been, oh gosh, I don't know. It could have been something psychological at some point. I don't know. And I'm not trying to say that that's what it is because I haven't lived your personal experience and I'm never going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But I can at least argue, or at least, approach it with some degree of skepticism that it may very well be innate, but it also could be something that was learned, and it's possible that it happened. If I'm sticking with you personally, it's possible that it happened. It was something learned and you didn't even realize it.
All right. Think about it this way. Here's an interesting way of thinking about it. It's an abnormality we've established. You agree? It's an abnormality in the norm for human beings.
Yeah, I pretty much said it, maybe not in so many words.
So how do abnormalities happen? It is something that happens when
any number of ways.
Well, no.
Well, mutations are considered an abnormality.
Yeah. So think of it as a mutation. I mean, some people may take offense to that, but I don't have a problem with I got bunny toes. I don't have a problem with thinking there's nothing wrong with mutations.
See, I gotta look up bunny toes. Even that's the first time I've ever heard of it.
You ever heard of bunny toes? I have.
Sometimes women have camel toes too.
I avoid that at all costs. Um, so I already have a malformation, an abnormality in the genetics, and that to me is all it is. It's an abnormality in genetics. If abnormalities in genetics happen, differences all the time. That's evolution. That's it's what happens. Shit, you go through DNA enough times, there's going to be different variations of it. And that's all this is. It's another variation. It's a mutation and abnormality of the genes.
Okay, but then what you're doing by insisting that it may be some abnormality of the genes is you can't just you can say well I'm sorry you can say that that's what it is, but at that particular point this is when again you have to introduce science into it to prove that.
Well, me going fuck science is just me saying I don't need that in my for me to feel the way I do about it being a natural born with situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that is. That's not me saying fucking science doesn't matter. I love science.
Right.
I think science is awesome. But for me, I don't need that argument.
Right. Well, my thing is that though, when you're trying to convince, granted, you and I aren't going to walk away from this conversation, thinking less of one another. I don't believe.
No,
I think if nothing else, I hope, I think you and I can walk away from this, argument, probably with probably greater respect for one another.
I mean, everybody has a right to their own opinion. It doesn't, you never, just even just taking religion, regardless of whether, what religion you are or whether you're not religious,
mm-hmm.
you don't know the actual truth. In your lifetime, you are not going to know the actual truth because in all reality, there really isn't a absolute truth.
And
while
again,
you're living.
Yeah, but somebody with faith is going to disagree with you on that every time.
I can understand that.
Well, just because out of faith, we believe that we see and hear things every day that support our faith. Of the unseen. And I don't try to convince people that are non-religious that I'm right because there is an absolute possibility that that me and other Christians could be wrong, but that's our humanistic side talking right there, not our faith.
We can you gotta take a faith out of question in this. But let me finish what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't we aren't going to know that because in all actuality, while we are alive, we all live our own reality. So my reality is this, your reality is that. Doesn't mean either one is better or worse. It's just different realities that we have learned and live every day.
I just now saw your tweet. But see, here's
I thought
the
maybe
thing,
I'd get some people to come in.
Yeah. I don't know that kind of conversation will draw in a huge crowd.
I don't know. They seem to like the fucking blood sport thing. So I'm like, argument. Maybe they'll like us yelling at each other. I don't fucking know.
But okay. But my advocacy for a more scientific approach here is that, or at least doing some reading on whether or not it's genetic or whether or not it's something that happens psychologically is just because if you're in a situation where maybe you're getting into another discussion like you and I are, is to kind of be armed with at least something. You don't have to necessarily remember who wrote the article, when, and whatever. Just maybe I think a lot of people, like for me, if you had said, well, I'd read this article about this and this kind of shows how homosexuality is more of an innate thing than it is a nurture thing, then I could go, okay, well, here, let me at least take some of the phrases you're using so I can go read this for myself and see what's out there.
I understand why people like that. I really do. It's just never been in my I don't know, nature to do that. I've always been the sort that
So it's not genetic.
I don't I don't know. I I learn something and then it just becomes something I know.
Mhm.
And I don't pay attention to where I got it from or anything of the sort. It's just once I accept it, it's in me.
Right.
If I find something, a new information that I can agree upon, or sounds logical and concise to me, that even if it goes against something that I've already learned, I can then adjust to that. But well, I know because of this and this and this. That's just not how I am. It's all I think I call it osmosis. I osmosis learn, and then I think about shit, and then I'm like, okay, well, what do I really believe on this? And once I come to that conclusion, what seems logical to me is what I go with.
Right.
So yeah,
No, I get
I'm
it.
never going to
I
be
get it.
good at giving you sites and all that shit. I'm
Yeah,
never
that's
going to be
why
good at that.
yeah, that's why if it were me and you know who will take it at face value and decide whether or not I need to research some things on my own just to kind of put knowledge into myself about these things. I could take what you said at face value. If you even say, well, I read this articles, however long ago that shows where homosexuality is a natural thing in people, because I'm sorry, I know this kind of makes the argument bad on my part and not good faith, but I just have not seen enough evidence to differentiate, or not differentiate, but to tie human homosexuality with animal homosexuality,
Mm-hmm.
and why they should even be compared, the same to one another. Um, it's just, to me, it's just different. You can't. It's hard to make a comparison to the animal kingdom when we're talking about
It is
animals who can
if you
logic and
think of it
reason.
as an abnormality.
I'm
Think
sorry.
of it as if you just think of it as an abnormality, a difference in genetic code,
Hmm.
um, then yeah, you can compare it.
But that's the thing, though. Again, it has to when you start talking about genetic code, that's when I and people who think like me, when we hear things like that, will start to tell you, okay, I need to see something that mentions anything about a genetic code, because not once have I heard, and you're probably not going to get a politically correct scientific paper to say that homosexuality is a mutation. They're never
No.
they're never gonna they're never going to address it like that, unless their findings are sincere and they're not trying to be politically correct about their findings.
And somebody will get mad at that and then call them
Yeah.
homophobic and
And then the next thing you know, that same scientist is going to have to talk about how mutation brought us to where we are as human beings now.
yeah,
You
it's
know, because
a product of life.
some scientists do discern the difference between mutation and adaptation, and I think most scientists would probably agree the reason why Homo sapien is where we are instead of being the dominant species as opposed to Homo erectus is because through adaptation
Oh yeah,
more than mutation. Although some scientists would probably say, yeah, mutation has something to do with it. But as far from what I remember, they do see mutation and adaptation differently.
it's
Mutation,
probably like a group, a amalgamation of both of them.
it could be, it could be. Triax is asking, "Where's the alien? Are the alien gay?" Really? I mean, maybe I should have gone back into the creator end of it and changed the title.
I did. I actually did go back into the editor and change everything.
Oh, well,
Just
yeah,
in
yeah.
case.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did see that, but now, well, I don't know, because we are net at nearly 2 hours, and I'm getting
Well,
hungry. But I'm
it's getting
hungry.
in there.
I'm getting hungry.
We can start wrapping it up then.
Okay, so anyway, if I may, like I said, I don't think you and I are going to think much differently about one another. As a matter of fact,
Oh hell no.
just as a guy in my age who still has his testosterone intact and thinks bisexuality is pretty hot, although would not necessarily engage in a tricycle or a devil's three way.
I'm not even into threesomes. Fuck that shit. I'm not sharing.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am. I mean, okay. Admittedly, I tried a tricycle once, and it
Mhm.
was somewhat underwhelming. Maybe because one of the girls was on her cycle, and for whatever reason, just decided. I'm like, no, this kind of takes the fun out of the tricycle. You know?
Dude, well, it gets messy, but that's easy lube, man.
I know, I get that. I
I
get
don't.
it.
I mean, I
Yes, it's
understand
messy.
the smell and the
It was
mess
more.
are a fucking
Well, it was more
issue,
of a thing that she didn't want to
but
do it because she was cycling, probably because she didn't want to be
oh
embarrassed. That's fine.
yeah,
Whatever.
which is kind of sad. We have to be. Well, we don't have to be embarrassed by it. We don't
Mhm.
have to be. That's the fact of the matter. You don't got to be embarrassed by it. Everybody's like, we have to be embarrassed by it. Like, no, you
Yeah.
don't. Fucking just get a fuck over it yourself.
Because you know, now
What?
granted, you know, even with the vast experience I've had, insert sarcasm or facetiousness,
Mhm.
I have not ever. I just haven't been. I have heard that some women actually get hornier when they're going through their cycle. I'm like, okay,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's definitely a thing.
yeah. So I'm
It's
just like,
definitely a thing, and it makes orgasm easier. Um, so yeah, it's. If you haven't gotten your red wings, go get them if you can. Just saying, just saying. I mean, of course, you're gonna have to, do it with a girl who isn't uptight
yeah,
and freaked out about her own shit. So,
yeah.
which may be harder to find. I don't know. I'm always been the odd one out that I just don't give a flying fuck. Just put something down.
And I still haven't found anything that says what bunny toes really are. All I've got is a picture of a guy who's got one
I
toe with two toe ends.
I will find a picture of my bunny toes and put it on Twitter for you.
Oh, okay, fair
'Cause I
enough.
do have cute feet. So if anybody's into feet, I do have some cute feet. If you don't, though, I have met somebody who was actually grossed out by my bunny toes, which I don't get because the bunny head peeps. It's
What?
kind of what it looks like. It looks like a little bunny head.
Okay,
You'll see. You'll see. You'll see. I'll put.
okay.
I'll find a picture somewhere and put it up for you. I know I
Yeah.
have some.
Okay. So one thing I noticed was I was remembering I was noticing one of your pictures that you have on your Twitter
Mm.
and remembering how something about how you hate big boobs, yet you do not have tiny boobs, from what I can tell. Just
Yeah, but
hate
they're
big
not
boobs on other
big.
women.
Yeah, I don't like big boobs on other women. I
Oh,
personally like. I'm attracted to smaller boobs, and mine aren't big. They're just normal, average
well,
size.
maybe it's because, well, I don't know. I mean, it looks like you don't have them restrained, so to speak.
Well, which was it? Is it the one with me with the sword, or the one with me a very low a V cut top on?
Yeah, the low cut top is what I
Yeah,
saw.
that was no bra
Yeah,
because that's way too low to wear any bra, and I couldn't find the bra that I have that actually
me,
looks
that's
nice
way too
underneath
low
there.
to wear a bra. That's absolutely, well, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would need to because one of those boobs was just about to fall out the whole fucking video. It's like, okay, yeah, I need to find those bras that work for that.
yeah, I got you. I got you. Okay, and one other thing, I do like your bangs, but I think you look more gorgeous when you don't have your bangs. But that's just my
Mm.
opinion.
Well, I've been getting self conscious about my forehead.
Oh, well,
That's
that's
why I
fine. Oh, okay,
on.
I
and
get it.
and my eyebrows. As I'm getting over, I've noticed my eyebrows are lighter, so they're not standing out as much. So I was like, I need something to frame my eyes. I got into a girl thing and got all like, oh my God, my forehead, I'm starting to get wrinkles on my forehead and my eyebrows are starting to fade away. I need to do something. So yeah, that's why that
You
happened.
poor thing. You poor thing.
It's
Well,
tough to be a
anyway,
woman sometimes.
I'm telling you. Well, Jesus.
Sometimes.
I tell you what. Due to my genetic conditioning, sometimes unfortunately I get problems that happen more in women than men, but still sometimes we'll deal with it.
Mhm.
And I just did one this last week that I'm just like going, shit, this makes me glad. Even though this is the first time this has ever happened to me, I'm glad I'm not a woman because it happens to them more often.
I feel you. I
Yeah.
think everybody pretends like, well, that's only a woman problem, or only women have this and only men
Yeah.
have that. No, we all fucking.
Yeah.
Some of
Well,
us have nail issues.
I guess I'll be
It's
specific about it because I don't think it's anything necessarily to be embarrassed about. But you know, I had so I had graduation Friday last week.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. And immediately afterwards, since I'd been uh, at that thing for about 3 hours by this point, I'm like,
Mhm.
man, I have got to go to the bathroom. So I stop and go to the bathroom, and on the back end of my at the back end of urination, I felt some pressure,
Mhm.
and I was like, what the fuck is this? So didn't really notice anything going on as far as what had fallen into the toilet.
Mhm.
So as soon as we get to where I'm going for dinner, I have to go pee again. I'm like, what the fuck? So I go in there, and the next thing you know, I'm basically discharging blood at this time, and clumps of
Oh,
it.
dude.
Yeah. So I'm like, what the fuck is this? And now the back pressure after flow is even worse. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And my
Yeah.
first thought is, I remembered I had a girlfriend that frequently got UTI.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh shit, watch this be a UTI. So I went back to the table, got online while my friends were talking. And sure enough, it sounded like it was a UTI. And fuck, I never want to do that again. I mean,
Yeah.
it was already starting to clear up because, I went to the store, bought pure cranberry juice and
Mhm.
and a probiotic drink. And before I went to bed, it was clearing up a little bit, and it wasn't hurting as much after I finished.
Yeah.
And then by Sunday it was a lot way better. But yeah, I went to the doctor the following Monday, and yeah, they took a urine sample for me, and they're like, yeah, this is what's going on with you. But I believe my own genetic disposition has kind of put me at a higher probability of dealing with things that females deal with.
Mhm.
It does not mean that I am cross sex. Okay, just so you guys in the chat don't get it twisted. You know, I am not what Jamie Lee Curtis is purportedly have been at one point.
I didn't even know that. Damn.
Yeah,
Oh, no, I did
there
hear
are
about
rumors that she was cross sex when
I did
she was
hear
born
about that
cross sex.
actually.
What's that?
I did hear about that actually. Now that I come to think of it, I did hear about that.
Man, it's kind of in you know
We
when
we
you
all
see her
have
from.
different
I'm sorry.
balances of we all have different balances of hormones and all that and
Yeah,
of testosterone. We all have all those.
yeah.
And you could have imbalance of anything at any time in your life and
Especially
have
as you get
different
older.
stuff. Yeah.
Especially as you get older. But anyway, so yeah, let's go ahead and finish this because I think I've revealed more about myself today, just in the last 10 minutes than I really should have.
You're gonna have to realize I bring that out in people. I don't know what it is
um,
I do, but I seem to bring out that in people. I know so much shit about people that they never tell anybody else.
uh huh.
It's just we happen to be on a live stream.
Fair enough. But anyway, since there are people in the chat that I haven't seen before, feel free to check my channel out. As a matter of fact, to make it easier, type hello in the chat, and you can right click the three dots over there, and I think you can left click rather, and then you can
Yeah.
go to my channel and subscribe if you'd like.
Yeah. So one thing I didn't do, I took out Manic Idiot's link, but I just spaced. I was like trying to get it done real quick. I didn't even think about putting yours in. I
That's
did it in the
okay.
last one though.
Yeah,
So
you did. I don't know that I got any subs from that, but you did.
yeah, I don't get that many viewers. I got, an okay amount of subs, I suppose, but yeah, the ones that actually watch, no. But maybe that's consistency on my part. So
The thing of it is too is I don't know if everybody who uh watches YouTube knows that just going to the channel and letting it play for maybe a few seconds will count as a view.
I
And
was wondering because I got the amount of views I got on each video
mhm,
that these live streams.
mhm.
I'm like, I don't remember being there anywhere near that many people in there.
Well,
Nowhere
the funny
fucking
thing
near.
I've been doing this for gosh, it's getting close to 2 years, and I have yet to break 100 subs. So,
Damn.
well, and and it's I think like I
You've been
said,
busy with school though.
what's that?
You've been busy with school though.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know that my my made up content, or what I mean made up is that the shit that I go through and actually script out and edit. And well, that's the thing. I don't script out every one of my videos.
I don't script out anything.
And well, and the reason why I do is because a lot of the videos I make responses to just throw out, just shit without even realizing that they're not being sincere. Case in point, um, I still have to do this video by Francesca Fiorenti.
Mm-hmm.
I call her Latina Chessie, Latina Franny. I don't know if you know who the other Franny is.
I know who the other Franny is. Yeah,
Yeah,
Ramsey.
Francesca Lee, the black
Oh
girl
no,
who does all the racist shit.
I just know from the only Francesca I know is Francesca Ramsey.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Lee's her middle name, I think.
Oh.
Okay, so she's Franny, but when I do videos on Franny, I call her Chessie. And but then there's a Francesca Fiorenti who does this thing called Broke Down News on AJ Plus,
Mm-hmm.
and she's also been on the Young Turds a few times. Well, she just did this video calling Trump a hypocrite because Trump has decided to do some things involving Syria as to back in 2013, 5 years ago. He said that we should not be involved with Syria. And I'm like going, yeah, he was a private citizen, well, somewhat private citizen, who was talking about how we shouldn't do it. But see, a lot of people felt that way. But when you become
change their opinions.
Yeah, so the 5 years is a long time or even 4 years is a long time to be able to change your opinions.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was so she was trying to talk about how Obama, when he wanted to go to Syria, tried to go before Congress to get approval to go use military action there. And I was just like, okay, that's great. Obama decided to go to Congress. Do you want to go back over and talk about what he did with Libya? He made an executive decision to go into Libya. Granted, he didn't put troops on the ground, but he aided in a Libyan conflict that we shouldn't have even fucking touched, because while George Bush was still president, Muammar Gaddafi was handing over his nuclear weapons shit to us. So anyway, you get what I'm saying is that she's trying to claim hypocrisy while being a hypocrite.
They're all fucking hypocrites. Yeah. All politicians are hypocrites.
Oh, I was gonna say everybody. Well, she's not a politician, but that doesn't mean she's any less of a fucking hypocrite.
Well, I'm sure she's a hypocrite too, but I'm just saying, calling out one politician over the other politician, they're all hypocrites. Yep. It doesn't matter. They all are.
Oh, wow. I did not realize that I had even 10 people like my tweet from my picture tweet last night. Did you see it?
I don't remember.
No, you didn't see it because you didn't like it. Well, anyway, so I was actually at the movie theaters last night to watch the new Avengers, but I was walking right next to it. The IMAX was the Deadpool movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently because they didn't have enough space to get Deadpool IMAX, they had to drop the L on Deadpool. So I tweeted out the picture and said, "Looks like I'm in the right place." Jeez.
Who's everywhere?
Anyway, so yeah, guys. Close. If you're ready, you can close this out. I guess. I mean, it's your channel. It's your channel. You keep talking if you want, but I got to go.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. I'll let you know next time. Hopefully, next time my guest will actually show up.
3 hours, actually.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it's been 3 hours.
We can fucking talk, can't we? Yeah. Hopefully next time. But okay, upcoming. I'll let everybody. Well, thank you to HuFlungPoo. So if he just drops out all of a sudden, let's give thanks for HuFlungPoo for being here to help with the chat, and then end up actually, being
your guest.
Yes, since that didn't work out. So that was a lifesaver right there. I don't know if I can carry it all by myself.
Okay. You'll get there.
Yeah, one of these days. One of these days. Even if I want to rant about something, then I could just fucking go off. But who's gonna read the chat? Okay. But I'm setting up new more live streams coming up. I've got a number of them coming up. I think it's 2 weeks from now on the weekend. Kraggles, who's in the chat, and I are going to sit down and talk about the Last Jedi movie. Yes, so we're going to get some, and you're going to have to, if you're on, you're going to have to keep your mouth shut. Okay? Because we know you love Star Wars.
Oh Jesus Christ! I hope you consider bringing me in on that one.
Let's
Oh
do
my
it.
gosh!
I
Yeah.
know, Tim. You maybe we'll give you a time frame where you can talk too.
Well, just let me know. Let me know when it is. I'll, like I said, I'll be happy to help out with the catching the live chats and whatnot.
Okay. And then Triax, he and I are going to at some point in time have something going on, possibly about Bigfoot, or if he wants to do some other subject matter, we're down. And yes, when HuFlungPoo and I talk, it seems to get into more of a political hemisphere, because that's his thing. But
I was
my
born that way.
yeah, mostly, I'm going to try to stick with more, fun stuff, and hopefully I can maybe get Manic Idiot on here to talk about aliens another time. And I'm going to see what else we got what I'm gonna going on. I've got a few other people that I'm working on trying to set something up so we can do this again soon. So thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you on Twitter.